Hey guys, tonight we're marching into a mystery buried under moss, silence, and 2.000 years of damp British weather. You're pulling on your rough wool cloak, tying the leather straps of your sandals, and adjusting the weight of your shield across your back. The mist is already curling low around your feet like it knows something you don't. The standard bearer ahead of you shifts his grip. Rome's eagle gleams faintly in the dim morning light. You don't know it yet, but this might be the last road you walk. The 9th Legion, the famous 9th Hispania, has vanished. Somewhere in the green-grey tangle of what is now Scotland, thousands of Roman soldiers marched north and were never seen again. No fanfare, no graves, no letters home. And let's be honest, you probably won't survive this one. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd also love it if you dropped your current location and local time in the comments. It's always fun to see where and when you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The road from Eboracum, modern-day York, is a well-built thing. Roman engineers do not do mud. The stones are carefully laid, straight and unbending, even though the land they slice through is anything but. You feel the thrum of the march in your legs. 60 to a line, 5 lines deep. The sound of metal on stone and grit underfoot sinks into a rhythm you don't question. This is the world's most organized death march. And no one's aware yet. You pass through fog like it's a veil. There's an odd quiet to the northern lands. Not total silence, there are birds. Wind, the clack of hooves, but it's not like the city. No vendors yelling, no dogs barking, no soft arguments in Latin. Here, the land holds its breath. And you start holding yours, too. Let's pause here for a moment, not literally. You're still walking, to look at who the 9th Legion actually were. The Legio IX Hispania was one of Rome's most seasoned legions. These weren't green recruits. They had fought in Spain. Hence the name. They likely served in Gaul. Maybe even in Germany. They were hardened, trained, and thoroughly Roman. Stationed in Britain during the early imperial occupation. They were key in suppressing Boudicca's rebellion. A fact you would have heard about if your centurion had ever stopped yelling. They helped build the great forts at York and along the frontier. They weren't just soldiers. They were builders, road makers, and, let's be honest, part-time bullies with a knack for taxation enforcement. So why did they vanish? We'll get to that, slowly, like trudging through northern mud. Your tunic itches. The wool never softens, no matter how many times you wash it, especially not when it's damp. Which, in Britain, is always. Your sandals are hobnailed, the soles studded with iron, clinking with every step like coins in a jar. They do not help on slippery hills. Someone near you sneezes. You don't turn to look. If it's the third time this hour, it means it's Lucius. And Lucius has been allergic to Britain since he arrived. He's been saying so constantly. You break for camp that evening near the River Tyne. Tents go up with practiced speed. Square and wind facing. Fires are small but carefully maintained. Smoke invites attention. And not the good kind. You're in territory Rome technically controls. But let's be real, the locals don't agree. You eat barley stew and flatbread. It's warm, salty, and indistinguishable from the meal you had yesterday. Someone tries to trade for better rations. The barter system is alive and well among Rome's best and brightest. 2 turns at guard duty for 1 dried fig. That night, a scout doesn't return. It happens sometimes. Wild boar, broken ankle, or other things. You try not to think about the other things. Now let's zoom out again. Roman Britain in the early 2nd century CE was a frontier. A foggy, stubborn, often incooperative frontier. Emperors came and went, and Britain was rarely anyone's top concern, unless something went wrong. And if something did go wrong, you might want to make it disappear. Historians still argue whether the 9th was wiped out in one massive, brutal ambush, or quietly transferred elsewhere and conveniently forgotten. There's even debate over when they vanished. Was it under Hadrian? Trajan? Or even later? But here's the thing. After about 120 CE, poof, no more records of the 9th. Gone, not dead, not reassigned, just absent, like they walked into the woods and never came out. Let's return to camp. There's a rumor, whispered between sips of watered wine. A local village to the north vanished last week. No smoke, No sound, no struggle, just empty. The centurion dismisses it as superstition. But then someone brings up the black stones found outside the perimeter, small, smooth, carved with unfamiliar runes. You've never seen the centurion look nervous before. He throws the stones into the river. Next morning, you pack faster than usual. The fog is thicker now. And not the kind that lifts with the sun. You walk until the road becomes a trail. The trail becomes a guess. And the guess disappears into moorland. Somewhere behind you, a trumpet sounds. But you don't see the trumpeter. Someone counts. 60 men in your century. One's missing. Again, you wonder if the mist is swallowing people. You don't say it out loud. You don't want to give it ideas. And here, dear listener, is where things begin to diverge. According to some accounts, the ninth continued north into Caledonia, present-day Scotland, to quell a rising rebellion. According to others, they were already worn thin by years of guerrilla conflict. Bad roads, worse weather, and a leadership vacuum. According to none, they ever came back. Not officially. Not as a legion. No list of casualties. No glory. No imperial spin. Just silence. And we all know Rome hated silence. Silence meant uncertainty. And uncertainty meant someone in power might have to do something. Better to erase. Better to forget. Back on the march, your boots are starting to wear. You notice it in the way small stones dig into your heel. The path narrows. Trees crowd closer. This is not the kind of terrain Rome likes. The centurion pulls you aside. He says, you can write. You nod. Record the route. Just in case. Just in case. You don't ask what he means. You already know. So tonight, when the campfire crackles low and the mist creeps in again, you write. You note the number of men. The position of stars. The missing name. You keep your handwriting neat. Because someone should remember this. Even if the empire doesn't. You don't sleep well. The drumbeat never quite stops. It weaves through your dreams like a thread of worry. And when you do drift off, it's only to wake moments later. Heart pounding at some imagined footstep or phantom rustle. Come morning, the mood has shifted. Your cohort is quieter. Jokes land flat. Even the centurion, who once told bawdy tales with the confidence of a man who thought himself immortal, keeps his voice low now. He's pacing more, rechecking supplies. You see him sharpening his gladius long after it's already sharp enough. No one says it out loud, but everyone feels it. The ninth is walking into something, and no one is quite sure what. As the day begins, the fog is heavier than usual. It clings to your armor and muffles every sound. The forest presses closer, dense with pine and birch. You can't see more than 10 paces ahead. The trees feel like they're closing in behind you too, like a door being softly shut. Your feet ache, your back is sore, and your rations have gone soggy again. Somewhere around midday, the line halts. Whispers travel up and down the column like nervous squirrels. There's movement ahead. You grip your spear a little tighter, your heart tapping at the back of your throat. But it's not an attack. Not yet. It's just a cairn, a pile of stones, topped with feathers and what looks suspiciously like a wolf skull. You don't know if it's a warning or welcome, but your gut leans heavily toward the former. The standard bearer spits. Barbarian nonsense. He mutters. Still, his eyes linger on the skull longer than they should. That night, you sleep in a makeshift camp. Not a fort, not a post, just a clearing scraped from the woods. No torches. Orders are to keep a low profile. You eat in the dark. Chew your bread in silence. Then, a sound, distant, something like a flute, or a scream. You're not sure which. It's worth noting here, historians still argue whether the ninth disappeared in one swift blow or over time. Some theories suggest an organized ambush, a sudden overwhelming attack that destroyed the legion in a day. Others say they fell slowly, eroded by skirmishes, sickness, and supply failures. A war of attrition, not annihilation. But to you, in this moment, it doesn't feel like either. It feels strange, like the woods are trying to unmake you, like the land itself is shrugging off your presence. It's easy to laugh at these feelings back in the sunlit marble forums of Rome. But out here, your breath visible in the night air, your nerves stretched tight, you start to understand how men go missing. One soldier cracks the next morning. He insists he saw something in the trees. Not a warrior, not an animal, something else. Eyes too far apart, limbs too long. His voice shakes. He's sent to walk with the baggage train. That night, he's gone. No trace. The centurion shrugs. Desertion, he says, but you notice he's started sleeping with his sword drawn. You begin to wonder. What exactly were your orders again? There was no major battle planned. No enemy city to raise. Just a vague directive to investigate unrest. But there's been no sign of organized rebellion. No skirmishes. Not even a cursed arrow fired your way. Just this slow, creeping dread and the sense that you're being watched from every shadow. You begin to suspect this mission was never meant to succeed. Back in Rome, centuries later, a few scribes would record the existence of Legio IX Hispania up until the early 2nd century. After that, nothing. The name disappears from formal records. Some claim the legion was disbanded, quietly absorbed into other units. Others believe it was transferred to the Eastern Front, perhaps to Judea or Armenia. But there are no solid records. Only gaps. It's a bureaucratic magician's trick. Now you see it. Now you don't. And yet, the 9th was too famous to simply forget. You start to wonder if maybe that was the point. Maybe someone wanted them forgotten. Your cohort is now down nearly 20 men. Some sick, some missing. One fell down a ravine while chasing what he thought was a scout. He screamed for a long time on the way down. You stop listening after a while. As you cross another river, narrow, but swift, you notice something peculiar. The bridge is too new, too well made. Roman craftsmanship, clearly, but there's no record of it in your orders. No mention in the maps. Your officer frowns. Maybe it was built by an earlier patrol. He mutters. You glance over the side. The water runs red, not with blood, thankfully, but with the color of iron-rich soil. Still, it makes you pause. When you reach the far bank, the bridge behind you creaks. You look back, and for just a second, you think you see a figure standing at the center, tall, robed, unmoving. You blink. Gone. Another night. Another fireless camp. The forest is louder now, full of owls and cracking branches and strange, rhythmic clicks that no one can explain. One of the veterans says it's just foxes mating. Another says it's the trees themselves settling. No one laughs. A brief moment of levity comes when someone starts carving a chessboard into a leather scrap. You join a game. You lose in 6 moves. You smile anyway. It's good to pretend things are normal, even if only for a few minutes. You find another cairn. This one is newer, and this one is Roman. It holds a gladius, broken, a few coins, and a tile, etched with the number X. Someone was here before you. Someone didn't come back. You march on, feet blistered, spirits low. Even the standard, once a proud symbol of Roman might, sags in the mist. Your officer finally admits, I don't think we're being told the whole truth. You think, we never were. Somewhere behind you, another patrol is supposed to be following. Maybe they're already gone. Maybe they're the ones who left the cairn. Maybe they turned back. You envy them. Then, finally, light. A glimmer through the trees. You reach a clearing, and for a moment, it feels like hope. But what you see is not friendly. It's a fortress, Roman built, but abandoned, half burned, vines climbing over the gates. No signs of life. No sign of struggle, either. Just emptiness. The centurion doesn't speak. He just gestures you all inside. You set camp within the ruined fort. You rebuild a few barricades. Patch the wall. You even start a fire, against orders. No one complains. That night, you sleep under what's left of a tiled roof. It's cold, but not damp. The stars peek through broken beams. You let your eyes close. You think, maybe this place will hold. Maybe you'll be okay. Maybe the 9th will return from this after all. Then, in the distance, the drums start again. The drums don't stop this time. They don't roar or crash like in a dramatic retelling. They don't whip your heart into battle readiness. They just pulse, steady, low, far away, yet near enough to vibrate in your ribs when you lie still. Like thunder that forgot to finish. By now, the 9th has lost count of how many days you've been in Caledonia. Time in the forest gets slippery. You know you're somewhere far north, beyond anything Rome has charted with confidence. But each day of walking feels eerily similar to the one before. Trees, mist, wet socks, and the feeling that something is behind you. The abandoned fort becomes your new base. Though no one calls it that out loud. It has no name, and maybe it never did. The gate is half collapsed. The walls scorched. And yet there's no sense of siege here, just desertion. The centurion assigns cleaning duties. More for morale than sanitation. You sweep leaves from what used to be an armory. You repair a bench in what might have been the mess hall. You even help dig a new latrine. Because Roman discipline never dies. Even when the ghosts of your cohort might be watching from the trees. During the fourth evening, someone finds graffiti scratched into the stone of a half-fallen turret. No one leaves by the south. You don't know what it means. But you start to sleep with your dagger tucked into your boot. Just in case. Back in the comfortable halls of academia, historians still bicker about this part. Some claim the Ninth set up a remote outpost and were forgotten. Others suggest they took shelter during a rebellion that went unrecorded. A fringe theory? That the soldiers broke ranks entirely, went native, married locals, grew old telling stories about Rome to grandkids who hunted boar instead of reading scrolls. You smile at that one. Briefly. But it doesn't feel right. Not out here. Not with the drums still calling. You get used to the noises. Kind of. The forest clicks and hoots and sighs in unfamiliar ways. But after a while, your body learns which sounds mean danger and which mean, probably nothing. Then comes the night when the sound changes. It's not drums this time. It's chanting. Low. Slow. Just outside the fort walls. You and 3 others volunteer to patrol. You circle the perimeter. Nothing. You call out in Latin. Then in the local trader's dialect. Silence. You return to your bunk. And on the way back, you spot it. An object left just outside the gate. A Roman helmet, split down the middle. Inside, a feather. You don't take it inside. Morale dips the next day. 2 men fake injuries to get out of patrol. One insists he saw his brother in the woods. His brother, who died at the Rhine 10 years ago. The medic gives him herbs and a slap. The centurion orders increased watch shifts. You're put on the graveyard rotation. You're not thrilled. At night, things blur. You're tired, but not quite able to sleep. Your thoughts meander like a lazy river through increasingly odd territory. What if Rome never existed? What if this forest is older than time? What if you're already dead and just haven't noticed? To shake it off, you take a walk along the fort's wall. You stop. Someone, or something, has carved a face into the wood. Crude, angular, a frown, maybe, the eyes too wide apart. Deep gouges where the pupils should be. You blink, and for a moment you think it moves. You step back. You do not touch it. You talk less now. Everyone does. Not because of discipline, but because voices feel risky. Like too much noise might wake something. You speak in whispers, gestures. You share rations with nods. The man next to you hums a song from his hometown. You ask where he's from. He stops humming. He says, I don't remember. One morning, someone notices the standard is gone. Just gone. No signs of theft. No prints in the dirt. Just an empty patch of ground where Rome's eagle used to stand. The centurion rages, but it feels performative, as if he's trying to convince himself he's still in charge. That Rome is still in charge. No one believes it anymore. You ask yourself what you'd do if you made it home. Back to Boredom. Back to the clean walls. The smells of stew and sanded wood. Maybe you'd request transfer. Maybe you'd become a blacksmith. Or open a shop. Sell salted fish. Anything quiet. But you don't really believe in Boredom anymore either. On the 7th day, scouts spot smoke to the northeast. A settlement. Or what's left of one. You're sent as part of a small group to investigate. 12 men. 1 map. Rations for 2 days. You march out without fanfare. Without goodbyes. Everyone knows better. The trek is difficult. Trees dense. Hills deceptive. More than once. You double back without meaning to. Compass useless. Eventually, you smell the smoke before you see it. And then you arrive. It's not a village anymore. Just ash. Charred wood. Collapsed huts. The faint smell of burned meat. No signs of a battle. No arrows. No blades. No blood. Just, finished. Extinguished. At the center of the ruins is a circle of stones. Within it, bones. Too many bones. Stacked. Arranged. Not Roman. Not tribal. Not like anything you've ever seen. You do not touch them. One soldier, young, curious, annoyingly cheerful, laughs nervously and steps forward to take a closer look. There's a sound, like something breathing in reverse. And then the soldier is no longer there. Gone. You didn't blink. He just isn't. You run. All of you. No formation, no orders, no dignity. Just fear. You make it back to the fort by nightfall. Shaking, the centurion asks what happened. You say nothing. He nods. He already knows. That night, no one sleeps. Not even the medic, who once napped through an actual cavalry charge. The drums return. This time, they're closer. Somewhere in the night, someone whistles. A tune you don't know. But your feet remember it. And that's the worst part. By morning, the forest is silent again. Too silent. Birdsong is gone. Wind, still. Even the air feels thick. Like the moment before a storm that never comes. You look around the camp. You count. You count again. 6 men are missing. No sounds. No blood. No bodies. Just, missing. The centurion looks at you. His face blank. He says, prepare to move. You pack your things with hands that feel not quite like yours. The forest waits. And you walk out of the ruined fort with the rest of the ninth. Into the mist. Toward nothing. And whatever waits inside it. The fog is heavier today. Not thicker, heavier. Like a wool cloak soaked through. Pressing down over your shoulders. Dragging at your breath. It smells like wet bark. Old iron. And the faintest trace of decay. You try not to notice. You keep marching. You've stopped asking questions. There are maybe 3 dozen of you now. The last functioning unit of the 9th. Or what used to be the 9th. You don't use the number anymore. It's starting to feel like a name that was only ever whispered in dreams. The centurion hasn't mentioned the legion in 2 days. He just gives gestures now. Short, sharp, minimal. There's less ceremony. No more calls at dawn. No roll. No record. Because what's the point of a roll call if no one ever returns? The path you're following isn't on any map. That was clear 3 days ago. It snakes between ridges like a nervous thought. And once in a while you pass stones stacked in unnatural ways. At first, you assumed locals. Now, you think, no one stacked these. They were already like this. Maybe before anyone stacked anything. Mid-morning, the man next to you trips. Not dramatically, he just catches a root. Goes down hard. He gets up, says he's fine. Everyone saw it. But when he dusts himself off, he's holding something. A coin. Roman. Worn smooth. The emperor's face is missing. Not scratched. Not defaced. Just erased. A perfect blank. Like time licked it clean. You pass it around. No one pockets it. You bury it under a stone. You do not speak. There's a theory, floated by scholars who wear nice coats and drink espresso, that the 9th never disappeared at all. That they were merely renamed, restructured, quietly folded into another legion and sent elsewhere. That the mystery is just a quirk of inconsistent record-keeping. You want to believe that theory. You really do. But it doesn't explain the coin. Or the dreams. They started 2 nights ago. For you. Not dreams. Exactly, something in between. You're walking, as always. But the world around you is wrong. Everything is too sharp or too soft. Colors swim where they shouldn't. The trees lean in, not just overhead but toward you. As if listening. Something speaks your name, but not aloud. Not in Latin. In a language your bones understand. Even if your ears don't. You wake each time gasping. Fists clenched. Nails digging into your palm. Last night, someone else woke screaming. He wouldn't say what he saw. He hasn't spoken since. You pause for rest in a clearing where the light doesn't quite reach the ground. Above, the branches twist like woven wire. Below, the soil is soft and giving. Too soft. The centurion draws a circle in the dirt. We're here until nightfall, he says. It's the most he's said all day. While the others rest, you explore the edge of the clearing. You find a tree, massive and old, its bark carved in a familiar pattern, V-shaped notches. 3 across, like a legion mark, but older, weathered, as if it had been there before Rome. You run your fingers over the grooves. They feel warm. You step back. You do not touch it again. Later, when your unit breaks camp, someone notices that the tree is gone. You all saw it. You all agree it was there. But the space it occupied is now filled with a different tree, thinner, smoother, with no marks at all. No one comments. You just walk. The terrain turns rugged, hills rising like knuckles from the land. The air tastes metallic. The sound of your own breathing echoes too loudly in your helmet. The medic collapses mid-step. Heat stroke, you think. But when you remove his helmet, his eyes are open, and utterly blank. He doesn't blink. He doesn't speak. He simply stares upward, as if watching something no one else can see. You carry him on a litter for a few miles. He never reacts. When night falls, he's gone. The litter is still there. You burn it. That evening, the forest thins for the first time in days. You reach a wide, open field. In the center, a stone circle. Weathered, tall, covered in moss and lichen. Some stones lean inward, as if conspiring. You approach. No one stops you. The stones are warm, like breath. You place your palm against one and close your eyes. And you see? The ninth. All of them. Marching. But in reverse. Their armor corrodes with each step. Faces blur. Banners fray and dissolve. Their march becomes a funeral. Then a birth. Then, nothing. You pull your hand away. No one else touches the stones. They're not stupid. There's a story you once heard in the barracks. A whisper passed from one recruit to another. About a cursed legion. One that marched into a forest that didn't want them. And never marched out. They say if you listen carefully on quiet nights, you can hear the crunch of their sandals. The rattle of their armor, still marching. Centuries later, trapped in a loop of imperial pride and rural resistance. You used to laugh at it. You don't anymore. The next morning, your group is smaller again. No signs, no screams, just fewer shadows. The centurion doesn't ask names. Just signals to move on. You reach a ridge and see the sea for the first time in weeks. A thin blue line on the horizon. Glimmering. It looks impossibly far. And impossibly kind. But you turn inland. Back into the woods. You don't know why. You just do. You start to forget things. Not memories, details. How many days it's been. What your officer's name is. The name of the man you've shared rations with since Boredom. Your own mother's face. Gone. Like the coin. Like the tree. Like the legion. At midday, a bird lands on your shoulder. A crow. Its feathers are dull. Its eyes are not. It looks at you too long. Then caws once. And flies away. You feel something change. You don't know what. That night, you set camp in a grove that smells like mint and rust. You hear whispers in the grass. Actual whispers. Not wind. They speak in Latin. Broken, but clear. They say your name. Over and over. You do not answer. You bury your ears in your cloak and pretend to sleep. It doesn't help. The next day, the centurion is gone. His armor folded neatly beside the fire. His sword driven into the ground. You don't look for him. You all keep walking. Because what else is there to do? Somewhere, somehow, this ends. But not yet. Not for you. Not for the ninth. Not for the forest. Not for the thing that follows. The forest has grown quieter, but not in a peaceful way. It's the hush of something watching. The kind of quiet that comes not when everything has stopped, but when everything has gone still on purpose. Even the wind seems to tread more lightly, whispering only when your back is turned. You no longer know how many remain in your group. Maybe 20, maybe less. You don't count anymore. The gaps in the line appear overnight. You glance over your shoulder in the morning, and the man who slept beside you is simply not there. His bedroll untouched, his boots still warm. No one says their names out loud now. Names are anchors, and if you're going to float away, it's best not to be tied down. You haven't seen a Roman milestone in days. The path beneath your feet is more animal track than road, twisting, branching, uncertain. You follow it anyway, not because it leads somewhere, but because it's the only thing that is. You step around a tree that's shaped like a question mark. Its bark peels back in patterns you don't recognize, geometric, recursive, oddly satisfying. You brush your fingers along one spiral. It pulses. You recoil. The soldier behind you puts his hand on your shoulder and whispers. Don't let it know you noticed. You turn to ask what he means. But no one is there. There's a theory, taught in some circles of archaeology, that the ninth may have marched too far into enemy territory and been overwhelmed. That Caledonian tribes, united in desperation, struck in one coordinated ambush. That the legion was slaughtered, burned, and buried where no one would ever find them. You would almost prefer that. At least it would mean someone knew what happened. You come to a stone bridge spanning a narrow gorge. The stones are ancient, pre-Roman, perhaps, but the structure is sound. You cross one at a time. The river below is black, moving slower than a river should. You try not to look at your reflection. Halfway across, you hear singing. Soft, male voices. In Latin. A hymn you learned in training. Meant for funerals. It's coming from below. You do not investigate. The path beyond the bridge opens into a meadow. Not a clearing, those are accidental. This feels intentional. The grass is neatly cropped. The center ringed with stones. A single tree stands in the middle. Its branches leafless but full of hanging things. At first, you think they're fruit. Then you realize, helmets. Roman, Caledonian, worn, split, burned. They sway gently, though there is no wind. You pass through quickly. No one speaks. That night, one of the younger soldiers tries to desert. You hear him slip away after second watch. No one stops him. By morning, he's back. His eyes are open. His mouth is not. He walks into camp without a word, lies down, and doesn't move. He breathes, but he does not blink. By nightfall, he's gone again. This time, he takes his sword. The dreams return, more vivid. You are back in Rome, standing in the Forum, except the sky is green. The statues melt when you touch them. Your mother walks past, but she doesn't have a face. Someone tells you the ninth never existed, that you never existed. You wake up cold and crying. You are not alone. Two others are weeping softly nearby. No one offers comfort. It would feel ridiculous. By now, the rations have run out. You eat bark, berries, mushrooms you hope won't kill you. You drink from puddles, catch rain in your cloak. You start to feel less like a soldier and more like a scavenger. A ghost of a uniform, a memory in sandals. Your armor hangs loose. Your shadow is thinner. You've stopped expecting rescue. Then, the horns. Not Roman, not Caledonian, not human. A long, low bellow like a conch being dragged across gravel. It echoes between the hills. Then falls silent. You hear it once, twice, then nothing. You huddled that night beneath a dead tree, clutching your cloak like a second skin. In the distance, you see lights. Not fire, not torches. Something else. They blink in patterns. You do not approach. In York, Eboracum, officials are puzzled. The ninth hasn't sent word in months. Couriers vanish. Patrols dispatched north never return. The governor begins reassigning command quietly. New officers take up old offices. Wax tablets go unwritten. Names fade from rolls. No one says the ninth is gone. But no one waits for them either. Back in the forest, the path bends through a field of bones. Tiny ones. Animal. Bird. Some human. Arranged in spiral patterns. No crows circle overhead. No insects hum. You step carefully. And when you leave the field, your footprints vanish behind you. You pass a Roman mile marker. The number has been scratched out. In its place is a symbol, 3 lines crossed at the center. You've seen it before. On trees. On stones. On the inside of your eyelids. Sometimes, it doesn't have a name. But it knows yours. Your commander, what's left of him, starts talking to something none of you can see. He kneels at strange stones. He speaks in a tongue that's part Latin, part whisper. He doesn't eat anymore. You consider leaving him behind. But he's the only one still pretending to give orders. And that feels like something. There are 6 of you now. You think. At night, you stare at the sky. There are no stars. Just shapes. They move. You reach a lake with water still as glass. You see your face. It looks like someone else. Behind your reflection, someone else stands. You spin. Nothing. But the ground is wet. With footprints. Once, you were proud to be part of the ninth. Now, you wonder if it was ever real. Maybe you dreamed it. Maybe Rome is the dream. Maybe this forest is the waking. That night, one of you sings a lullaby in Gaulish. His voice cracks halfway through. No one minds. The sound is warm, human, almost enough to forget where you are. But not quite. In the morning, you wake alone, not just without a tent mate. Truly alone. The camp is empty. Your gear, untouched. Your sword, cleaned. No signs of struggle. No notes. Just absence. You eat a handful of berries and move forward. Because there is no backward anymore. Not for you. Not for the ninth. Not for anyone who hears the drums. You no longer wonder what day it is. You've lost track of moons, meals, and the rough rhythm of marching days versus resting ones. You only mark time now by the patterns of your own breath and the dull ache in your calves, both of which have become strangely comforting. Reliable. Everything else changes. The forest, the light, even your thoughts. You wonder if you're still walking north, or walking in circles, or walking inside something. You follow a path that shouldn't exist. It's too clean. The trees part like polite servants, revealing a trail just wide enough for one man to walk comfortably. There are no prints ahead of you, but the grass is pressed down in places, gently, like someone or something passed through without touching the ground. You find yourself humming under your breath. A marching tune, one you learned in your first year. You stop mid-note, realizing you don't remember how it ends. You don't remember learning it either. Once, Rome would have sent scouts to map this territory. They would have built mile forts, planted banners, pressed coins with victory laurels. Now there's no coin, no banner, no empire here, just you. Your dreams are changing again. They're longer, slower. In one, you walk through an endless temple made of ribs. You think it's bone, but when you touch the walls, they pulse with warmth, like flesh. A voice speaks from everywhere at once, asking, "Where's your standard?" You try to answer, but your mouth is full of moss. You wake up spitting green. There's moss on your tongue. You don't scream. That would be impolite. You begin to talk to yourself. Not aloud, but inside. Loud conversations in your head. With your old comrades. With your father. With Rome herself. Sometimes, Rome answers. She sounds tired. You reach a plateau. From the edge, you see nothing but trees. No forts. No villages. No fire smoke. Just a green sea of canopy that stretches forever, rippling in the wind like scales on some buried beast. You sit on a rock and eat the last of your dried meat. It tastes like paper. You smile anyway. Down the slope, the trees grow stranger. Their roots twist in ways that don't obey gravity. Some arch above the ground, curling into themselves. Others bore straight down into rock. You pass one with a hollow in the trunk shaped like a yawning mouth. You do not step closer. You do not peer inside. You've learned. There's a sound behind you, branches shifting. Then still. You don't turn around. You've also learned that much. Historians like to talk about the edge of empire. But what happens when the empire falls off you? You are not a soldier anymore. You're not even a man of Rome. You're just motion, wrapped in leather, eating silence for breakfast. You find a carved stone, low, mossy, but deliberate. It shows a line of men walking into a mountain. No helmets, no armor, just robes. One has turned to face the viewer. His face is blank. You stare at it for too long. When you finally blink, you feel something settle in your chest. You do not know if it is fear or peace. Midday becomes indistinguishable from dusk. The canopy thickens. The light turns green. You tie a cord of braided grass around your wrist. Not for utility, just for color. For self. It feels like defiance. Later that day, you find signs of fire. But not destruction. Not burning. Ceremonial. A ring of scorched earth. With a single bone in the center. Long. Polished. Placed there with care. A gift? A warning? A remnant? You do not touch it. You whisper a word you don't remember learning. Then you move on. There's a tree ahead, taller than the rest. Its bark is carved with what looks like legion numerals. Ix. The mark is fresh. Below it, the word, remember. But it's not written in Latin. You recognize it anyway. The following night, you reach what appears to be a boundary. The forest gives way to stone. Not a wall. Exactly. More like the remnants of one. Pillars rise at intervals, carved with weathered spirals. The ground beneath your feet shifts to gravel, red, ochre. Whisper quiet underfoot. You pass between two stones. The air goes still. The world tilts slightly. You keep walking. Inside the ring of pillars, things feel off. Time bends. You smell things that aren't there. Wine, cinnamon, ink. You hear distant conversation in perfect Latin, followed by laughter. You do not look for its source. You've stopped doing that. Then you hear it, marching. Not echoes, not memory. Marching. Boots, synchronized. Dozens, hundreds. You crouch behind a stone and wait. It passes. No one appears. The footsteps fade, but the dust lingers. Once, in a lecture hall in Alexandria, a scholar explained that the human mind fills in patterns where none exist. That's how constellations form, how faces appear in toast. But this is no illusion. This is memory, pressed into the soil like a footprint. Not your memory. The forests. You sit for a long time beside a shallow stream. The water flows uphill. It makes a soft gurgling sound like laughter underwater. You remove your boots and place your feet in. The cold is exquisite. You whisper, "Thank you." The stream whispers back, "You dream of the ninth." All of them, they sit around a fire. Not afraid, not lost, just tired. One of them looks up and sees you. He nods. Then the fire flickers, and he becomes a deer. And the deer becomes a statue. And the statue becomes dust. You wake up under stars for the first time in weeks. They are wrong, but beautiful. They do not twinkle. They hum. You hum back. The next morning, you find your sword rusted through. It snapped in its sheath. You do not mourn it. You bury it, like a friend. You whisper an old blessing over the hole. Your voice trembles, but your hand does not. And then, you see a shape in the trees. A figure. Tall, hooded, still. It holds something out. Your banner. The eagle. Intact. Clean. Polished. You step forward. The figure retreats into shadow. You do not pursue. You bow your head, because that feels like the right thing to do. Later, you will remember that moment as the turning point. Not the end, but the moment you became something else. Not a soldier. Not a Roman. Something older. Something that listens. Something that walks. And still walks. Even now, you feel the change before you recognize it. Not in your body. Your legs still ache. Your back still aches. Your boots are still giving up, but somewhere deeper. The walk feels easier. The woods, less hostile. The silence, less oppressive. You are no longer trespassing. You are being allowed. And that, somehow, is more unsettling than the fear. You come to a stone causeway, wide, cracked, older than any Roman road. Grass grows between the slabs. Yet your steps land with unnatural ease. It's like walking across memory. Each step feels deliberate, rehearsed. You wonder if you've been here before. Or if Rome has. You reach the center and find a basin carved into the stone. Inside, water ripples without wind. You lean close. You see your reflection. But it doesn't move when you do. It only blinks. Once. You step away. You do not look back. Rome trained you to read terrain. To assess enemy strongholds. To spot choke points. To gauge weather by cloud texture and crow direction. That training no longer serves you. The clouds here move wrong. The birds don't flee. And the trees, well, the trees are starting to look back. You pass a skeleton laid out deliberately on the grass. Not a battlefield death. A burial. The armor is Roman. The bones are peaceful. A sprig of heather rests on the chest plate. No one buried this man in haste. Someone mourned him. Maybe something. You begin talking again. Out loud. Not to others. There are no others now, but to the road. To the air. To the trees. You narrate your thoughts like a bedtime story. Because it reminds you that you're still real. Still human. Still trying. One day, the road answers. You say, "I wonder what the Tiber looks like today." And the wind brings the scent of wet marble. You laugh. Just once. It echoes far too long. Back in the world of columns and scrolls. Some scholars argue that the ninth was never lost. That they were quietly absorbed. Or dishonorably discharged. Or renamed as the sixth after a reshuffle. But the scrolls don't mention this road. They don't mention the smell of iron in the leaves. Or the way time folds like parchment just ahead of your boots. They don't mention you. You find another circle. Not of stones this time, of helmets. Polished. Perfect. Not rusted. Not bloodied. Arranged carefully. As if in ritual. Yours is there too. You pick it up. It is warm. You place it on your head. It fits. And for a moment, just a flicker, you remember your first day in the Legion. Sunlight, sweat, the sound of sandals on parade stone. It passes, but you hold on to the warmth. You walk, always forward. Sometimes the ground hums beneath you. Sometimes the sky turns violet and you smell honey. Sometimes your own hands look older than you remember. But still, you walk. At dusk, you meet another. A soldier. Alone. Tall. Pale. Unshaven. His armor strange. Mismatched. He nods as you approach. As if he's been expecting you. He speaks first. You're later than most. You ask him, "Are you from the ninth?" He smiles. Sad and slow. "I was from many legions." They forget their numbers eventually. You sit beside him. He shares his bread. It tastes like memory. You trade no stories. You both know them already. The stories here are not told aloud. They're exchanged in glances, in posture, in silence. At midnight, he stands, points toward the woods. Your path is still open. He says, "You rise." You say, "Thank you." He does not answer. Because he is already gone. Your next steps are heavy. Not with fear, but with knowing. You understand now. The ninth never ended. It just changed form. Some stayed. Some walked beyond. Some became the road itself. You walk for 3 more days. At least, you think they're days. There's light and dark. Sure, but not in ways that make sense. Sometimes the sun rises from the west. Sometimes it forgets to rise at all. You adapt. You always adapt. Eventually, the trees thin. Ahead, a structure. Stone columns. Intact. Overgrown with ivy and sleep. A temple? No. Something older. Wider. You step inside. The floor is polished bone. Not human. Not beast. Something in between. The air is thick with reverence. In the center stands a figure. It wears a robe of dust. Its face is not a face, just a space where faces go. It holds a scroll. You kneel. Not from fear, but from instinct. It speaks, not in words, but in certainty. You are seen. You are understood. You are not dismissed. The scroll opens. It is blank. Then it fills. With your name. Then the names of the ninth. All of them. Even the ones who were forgotten. Especially them. You exhale. You are free to go. But you don't. Not yet. You sit by the columns until the sky changes. Until the stars realign. Until the ground breathes beneath you. Eventually, you rise. Not because you're ready, but because it's time. You walk out of the structure. You leave the scroll behind. It does not follow. At the edge of the clearing, you find something new. A banner. Yours. The eagle still gleams. You lift it. Not for Rome. Not for glory. But because someone must carry the story forward. You walk. The road opens. It always does. You don't remember picking a direction. But your feet seem to. The banner feels light in your hand. Even though you know it isn't. The eagle atop it should weigh enough to tire your arm. But it doesn't. Not here. Not now. Something about this path. The way it narrows and curves gently. The way the ground keeps an even slope. The way the air smells faintly of olive oil and old ink. Feels deliberate. Like someone walked it before you. Not just recently, but always. You're not blazing a trail. You're following one that was written into the world. As you walk, faces begin to appear. Not people, just faces. Carved into bark, etched into stone, pressed into the ground as if the earth itself wanted to remember who passed this way. Some look Roman, some look older. One looks exactly like your old tribune. The one who used to snore like a catapult backfiring. You laugh softly at that one. And the bark twitches in reply. You stop laughing. You keep walking. A fox trails you at a distance for a day and a half. Red, narrow-eyed, quiet, never approaches, never flees. You speak to it sometimes. Because it feels polite. When you wake one morning, the fox is gone. In its place is a folded piece of cloth. Your old cloak. Clean, pressed, bearing the insignia of the ninth. You put it on. It smells like campfires and salt. You don't ask how it got there. One afternoon, you stumble into a field of shields. Just lying there. Hundreds of them. Some whole, some cracked, most ancient. You spot designs you recognize, eagles, wolves, laurel wreaths. But others are stranger. Birds with too many wings. Shapes you can't pronounce. One shield has the exact scratch mark yours did after that ambush in Londinium. You pick it up. It's heavier than you remember. But you carry it anyway. Back in the Empire, if anyone still remembers you, they think you're dead, gone in a skirmish, swallowed by the mist. Maybe your name was chiseled onto a cenotaph. Maybe not. It doesn't matter. Names are only useful when people still need to call you home. That night, you sleep in a hollow formed by 3 leaning trees. You wake to find food beside you. Bread, cheese, dried figs. You eat it. You say thank you. To whom? You don't know. But someone, or something, is listening. You're certain of that now. You begin hearing voices again. Not hostile, not hallucinations, not quite memories either. They hum in your head during quiet stretches. Familiar, comforting. Your mother reciting a recipe. An old friend laughing about goat stew. A legionnaire reciting camp gossip like it's sacred scripture. You let them talk. They don't ask anything of you. They just are. You reach a lake so still it looks like glass stretched across the world. On the far shore, you see movement, figures, Roman armor. Your armor, marching in silence. You wave. They do not wave back. But one tilts its head. Slightly. As if listening to something behind you. You turn. Nothing. When you look back across the water, they are gone. But the ripple remains. You walk until your feet go numb. Until the banner feels like part of your body. Until you stop asking questions like where, and why, and what's waiting at the end. Instead, you ask, how many others have passed this way? And the forest answers, you see them, ghosts, maybe, men, women, children, not all Roman, not all soldiers. Some wear armor, some wear leaves. They nod as you pass. Not with pity, with kinship. They were also seekers once. Historians would call this fantasy. A metaphor. Maybe even a hallucination brought on by trauma or fungus. But there's no metaphor in the way your hands shake when you see a face in the roots of a tree that you know. No, was your childhood friend. Even though he died in Carthage. There's no metaphor in the way the grass parts when you walk. In the way the wind says your name and then forgets it immediately. One evening, you find a fire already lit. No wood nearby. No smoke. But the flames dance anyway. Warm, orange, familiar. A stool waits beside it. You sit. Across from you, another figure. Armor like yours. Worn, but clean. They say nothing, but they nod. You both eat nothing, drink nothing, and stare into the same flames for what feels like days. When the fire dies, the figure is gone, but a mark is left on the stool. The numeral X. You leave it untouched. You begin to suspect there is no end to this path. Only moments. Some sweet, some strange, some utterly beyond understanding, but all necessary. Like chapters in a scroll too long to ever finish. Like footsteps in a story that walks itself. You meet others. Briefly. Sometimes they join you for a while. You don't ask where they're from. They don't ask where you're going. It's understood that such questions are not polite here. One gives you a map. A simple line. No landmarks. No scale. Just a single note in the corner. When the trees start humming, turn left. You thank them. They vanish before dawn. The trees do start humming. A low vibration. Pleasant. You turn left. Because that's what the map said. And because there is nothing else to do. You find a ruined fort. Not Roman. Older. Stranger. The stones pulse with memory. You walk through the gate. And something sees you. Not with eyes. But with intention. You bow. Without knowing why. Something bows back. You don't look for it. That night, you find a small pond shaped like a crescent. You drink from it. The water tastes like lavender and blood. You don't flinch. You just whisper. Almost there. Even though you don't know where there is. Not anymore. In the morning, you find your old gladius. Perfect condition. Laid across a flat stone. There's a single fig beside it. You eat the fig. You sheath the blade. You don't ask how. You just keep moving. You realize, at some point, that you've stopped remembering faces. Not because you've forgotten them, but because they've become part of you. The ninth is not a legion anymore. It's a language, spoken in footsteps, in rustling leaves, in the hush before dawn. And you are fluent now. You reach a clearing full of birds. They do not fly. They just watch. Their eyes are silver. They blink in unison. You bow again. One bird flies to your shoulder. It stays there as you continue walking. You name it Marcus. Because that feels appropriate. You're not lost. You're not found. You are ongoing. A walking memory. A living path. And somewhere, maybe just ahead, maybe just behind, you know the ninth is still marching. Still present. Still unfolding in the mist. One step at a time. By now, your march feels more like a ritual than a journey. Each step is familiar. Even when the ground is not. Each turn of the path is expected. Even when the landscape rearranges itself overnight. You're not surprised anymore when a hill you climbed yesterday has turned into a valley. Or when the sun rises from beneath the moss instead of the sky. You have stopped calling this strange. You've stopped calling it anything. It just is. Marcus, the bird, not your long-dead tent mate, still rides your shoulder most days. He pecks lightly at your helmet when you're about to veer off a trail. He chirps in three-note phrases you're convinced are instructions. Or jokes. Or both. You no longer question the presence of a talking companion animal. That ship sailed with your last rational breakfast. Today, the forest clears. Not because you emerge from it, but because it parts for you. The trees lean outward, creating an aisle. The sky above is clear for the first time in, who knows? It's a soft gray blue that doesn't promise rain or sunlight. Just neutrality. You feel seen. Ahead is a single standing stone. Tall, smooth, covered in names. You approach it slowly. There, at shoulder height, is yours. Exactly as you once scratched it into the barracks bunk. Slanted, with the same tiny flourish at the end. You reach out. The stone warms under your touch. And in the corner of your vision, you see them. Figures in formation. Row after row. Silent. Watching. You turn to face them. There is no sound. No breath. No shout. But every one of them salutes. And you, of course, you return it. Your arm moves of its own accord. Not out of discipline. Out of something deeper. Something older than Rome. In the real world, if there is such a thing, there's a fragment of a tombstone. Discovered in York. It names a centurion of the 9th. It is broken. The rest of the name is lost. The scholars argue about what it means. Some say it's evidence the legion never left. Others say it's a misplaced stone. No one ever suggests the centurion simply became part of the land. They should. You sit beneath the stone for a while. Marcus preens his wings. You eat a handful of berries that taste like roasted chestnuts. You don't remember picking them. But they're here. And they're safe. And that's enough. You carve a new symbol into the dirt. A spiral with 9 arms. The wind whistles approval. Later, you walk again. The trail rises gently, winding into foothills dotted with strange shrines. Some are Roman. Some are not. One is a pile of sandals. You leave yours. Not because you had to. But because your feet are ready. The ground welcomes your soles like a memory returning home. You descend into a wide basin where everything smells like fennel and ink. There are scrolls growing from the earth like mushrooms. You pick one. It unrolls in your hands without resistance. Inside, your life, written in present tense, every word precise, every step accounted for. You roll it back up and plant it in the soil. It takes root. A new scroll sprouts beside it before you've even finished standing. You smile. You move on. There's a tree in the next valley shaped like a centurion's helmet. Branches arch like a plume. You sit beneath it. Your mind drifts. You dream of drills on the practice field. Of sandals on gravel. Of cold stew and warm laughter. You wake with tears in your eyes and a flower in your palm. It's shaped like the eagle of your standard. You tuck it into your pouch. It pulses faintly. At dusk, you pass a line of cairns. Each is topped with a piece of broken gear. A snapped javelin. A cracked water flask. One holds a single sandal, charred and still smoking. You place your shield atop the tallest cairn. You whisper, "Carry less." Your voice feels like it belongs to someone older. There's an old story, older than Rome, about a path that walks you back when you're done walking it. About roads that bend not because of geography, but because of memory. You believe it now, because as you cross a small stream, you see your own footprints. Not from today, from weeks ago. They look fresher. You walk beside them. You do not try to catch up. You're not meant to. You meet someone at the edge of a glade. She wears no armor. Her eyes are entirely white. Her smile is not unkind. She asks, "Are you carrying anyone else's story?" You nod. She says, "That's fine. Just don't forget your own." Then she hands you a small object. A silver coin. Stamped not with an emperor, but a tree. You turn it over. On the back, X. You blink. She's gone. You carry the coin in your palm for the rest of the day. It hums slightly, like a promise, or a song you haven't heard in years but somehow still know. Night falls. You sleep beside a boulder etched with names. You recognize 3. The medic who once faked a back injury to skip latrine duty. The optio who sang off key every morning. Your bunkmate from your first campaign. You whisper good night to each of them. The wind replies, and also you. You dream of a long table. The 9th sits there, eating, laughing. One space is left. You don't sit yet, but you're getting closer. You wake with soft moss beneath your head. The world smells like rosemary and old parchment. Marcus is gone. In his place, a feather. You tuck it into your belt. You whisper, "Good journey." The trees rustle, approving. You stop thinking about endings. They'll come when they do. For now, there's the path. There's the story. There's the banner in your hand. Still intact. Still rising. And ahead? A fork in the road. Each path marked with the same sign. X. but drawn differently. One loops, one climbs. You choose and walk on. You take the climbing path. Not because it looks safer, it doesn't. The incline is steep, the stones slick, the trees more gnarled than ever. But the looping trail felt too familiar, too quiet, like it might lead you back to yourself when you've only just begun to forget. And forgetting, out here, is a kind of survival. So you climb. Your breath fogs the air. The wind bites gently at your cheeks, as if testing you, not punishing, just checking. A reminder that the air up here belongs to the sky more than to the earth. The path narrows. You place one foot after the other with a soldier's focus. Muscle memory. Discipline. The body remembers what the mind doesn't need to. Even when the empire forgets you. Your calves do not. You pass a crumbling column, half swallowed by moss. A frieze spirals around it. Not triumph or battle scenes, but mundane things. A soldier cooking lentils. A man sharpening a blade. Two legionnaires playing dice. At the top, the inscription. Glory is the most forgettable part. You laugh once, then nod. Someone finally said it. At the summit, you find a small altar. It's made of old helmets. Some Roman, some not. At its center is a single stone bowl. Empty. A breeze nudges your fingers toward your pouch. You take out the silver coin the white-eyed woman gave you. You place it in the bowl. The moment it touches stone, the air stills. Then the coin glows, just once, and disappears. You feel lighter. Not in the body, in the memory. There's a legend, not one you learned in the barracks, but one the older locals sometimes whispered over fires, about a road that remembers you after you're gone. It carries your weight forward, your footsteps forward, so that someone else might find the path easier. You always thought that was poetic nonsense. Until now. Because this path has been too easy. And the wind hums a song you once hummed during a march 10 years ago. Someone has walked this way for you. You feel the debt, and the gratitude. As you descend the far side of the ridge, something changes in the color of the light. Not brighter, not darker, just different. A tint you can't name. You pass beneath an arch of stone and vine. And on the other side, everything is still. Utterly still. No wind, no birds, no rustling. The kind of stillness that follows an ending. Or precedes one. The ground becomes soft again. Not muddy, springy. Almost too perfect. Like a garden path. You see markers. Tiny totems. Some made of bone. Some of ash. One of pure salt. Somehow unmelted by the air. They don't frighten you. They're not warnings. They're greetings. You nod to each one as you pass. They nod back. Not physically, but energetically. You feel it, like a bow of breath. A voice calls your name. You pause, not because you recognize it, but because of how it's spoken. It's the way a parent calls a child in from the yard. Not urgent, not fearful, just time. You do not run, but you do begin walking a little faster. You enter a grove where light falls like liquid. Each beam shimmers faintly, revealing what floats inside it, memories. Not yours, not entirely. Snippets. A hand brushing a horse's mane. A boy losing his first dice toss. A group of men singing in 4 different keys and none of them good. You step through the light. And the memories don't fade, they join you. They're welcome. At the center of the grove is a pool. Circular. Black as ink. Still as sleep. You kneel beside it. Inside the reflection, you see the 9th. Not marching. Not fighting. Just living. They cook. They joke. One man is sewing. Another is carving a flute. They are unbothered. Whole. Someone sees you. He raises a hand. You raise yours. And the reflection ripples. Then settles. You are alone again. But not lonely. You stay in the grove until dusk. There is food here. Berries. Roots. A flask of something that tastes like nostalgia and honey. You eat. You drink. You sleep. And for the first time in this long, uncertain walk, you dream of nothing. No forests. No ghosts. No spiraling symbols. Just warm. When you wake, something has changed again. There's a weight on your chest. You open your eyes and find a scroll. Tied with red string. You don't remember receiving it. But you know what it is. You untie the string slowly. Inside, in perfect script, is your story. Not just the journey. All of it. From your first march to your first loss to your first unexplainable moment on this path. You read it. You cry. Then you roll it up and press it to your heart. It dissolves. Like ash in reverse. You walk on. The trail narrows. Stone gives way to sand. Then to grass. Then to polished earth. You pass a tree shaped like a spiral. Its leaves whisper in languages you don't know. One leaf lands on your shoulder. You keep it there. A clearing opens. Inside. A gathering. Dozens of figures. Not all Roman. Some wear robes. Some wear feathers. One is made entirely of smoke and light. They do not speak, but they wait for you. You step into the circle. They part. At the center is a fire. It is not hot, but it knows you, and it welcomes you. You step closer. You are asked, not in words, but in certainty, if you are ready. You nod. You kneel. You place your hands into the fire. It curls around your fingers. There is no pain, only knowing. The fire lifts, and in its place is a new standard. Not of Rome, of you. You rise. You take it. You plant it in the earth. The crowd bows and fades. You are alone again, but this time, you understand what that means. Not solitude, not exile, but sovereignty. You are your own legion now. And your march continues. Always. You walk now without needing to. Not because the path demands it, but because motion is part of you. There is no destination ahead. Not exactly. Only the deep rhythm of footfall and the occasional pause when the wind tells you to notice something. And it always tells you gently. The world changes subtly. You begin to notice colors that don't have names. Blues tinged with memory. Greens that taste like old laughter. The sky glows peach 1 hour. Then the color of parchment left in the sun the next. The trees seem content, not still, but satisfied. They sway with purpose, not restlessness. It feels like you've crossed a threshold. Not a border, but a mood. As if the land has judged your intentions and found them acceptable. Today, you pass a man walking the opposite direction. You nod. He nods. You don't stop each other. That's not what this is for. But in the moment you pass, you see something flicker behind his eyes. He's carrying a different legion standard. One you don't recognize. His shoulders are heavy. You want to reach out. But he's already gone. There are places now where the ground glows faintly. Not brightly. Just enough that your feet can find it in the dark. You begin walking at night more often. It's quieter. The forest no longer watches. It accompanies. You stumble on a camp one night, abandoned but not ruined. Neatly laid stones, a small cooking pit, a stool carved from a single tree root. On the stool, a wax tablet. You pick it up. There's a message scratched in hurried strokes. We didn't disappear. We just changed direction. You whisper the words aloud. The trees echo them back. You sit for a while. You leave a new message beneath it. Understood. Then you walk on. At dawn, you hear the sound of a river. Not crashing, not loud, just present. You follow it, and it leads you to a wide plain filled with reeds that sing when the wind passes through. Real song, not imagined. Harmonies, faint and perfect. You kneel at the water's edge and see not your reflection but a legion camp, tents and fires and polished sandals. The ninth, in full. They're laughing. It's a feast day. You see yourself among them. You don't wave. You let them have their peace. You drink from the river and move on. There's a book now. You find it bound in red leather, resting on a stone shelf carved into the side of a cliff. Its title is Legio 9, Those Who Remained. Inside, the pages are blank until you begin reading. And then, line by line, your memories appear. All of them. Even the ones you thought lost. Even the ones that never happened. Even the ones that happened to someone else, but still feel like yours. When you close the book, the leather is warm. You place it back on the shelf. It vanishes the moment you turn your head. That feels fair. You reach a valley filled with statues. They aren't Roman, or Greek, or anything recognizable. Each one has your face. But they are not you. They are what you could have become. Some wear crowns. Some are twisted. One is weeping. One is glowing. You place your hand on the weeping one. It sighs. Then crumbles into sand. You say nothing. You walk on. There are fields now. Wide and golden. Not wheat. Not grass. Something in between. You walk through them for hours. A hand brushes your arm. You turn. No one. But the warmth lingers. Later, a child greets you. No more than 10 years old. Barefoot. Dressed in a tunic that seems woven from moonlight. She offers you a cup. You accept. It's filled with something thick, sweet, and unnameable. You drink. Your heartbeat slows. The child says, "You'll be remembered now." You ask, "By who?" She shrugs and vanishes into the grass. The wind carries voices again, but now they chant, low, slow, a liturgy without words. You walk in time with it. Your feet match the syllables. Your breath fits between the lines. You realize you are being sung. You don't mind. Once, long ago, the ninth was feared, a sword in the dark, a hammer in the north. Now, you are something else, not feared, not forgotten, felt. You reach a gate. It is not built, but grown, from trees that bend and loop into a perfect arch. Symbols dance across its surface. One looks like a wolf, one like a crown, one like your childhood signature. You touch the gate. It opens inward, without sound. Beyond is fog, but it is not the mist of Caledonia. It is soft, inviting, like breath on glass. You pass through, and the air becomes gentle. The world slows. Everything feels. Postscript. A table waits in the center of this space. Long, empty, until you approach. Then it fills. Cups, bread, olives, wine. You sit, and suddenly, they are there. The ninth, the missing, the lost, the remembered, the rewritten. They sit with you. No one speaks, but every smile says, "You made it." You eat. You rest your banner beside your chair. And when you stand, it rises into the air on its own. It glows once, then splits into 9 lights. Each floats off in a different direction. You do not chase them. You know they'll find who they're meant for. You walk one more time. Light on your shoulders. Scroll in your heart. Path beneath your bare feet. There is nothing left to carry. And nothing left to prove. You are the road now. And someone, somewhere, will follow. You wake in a place with no weather. There is no wind, no sun, no temperature to speak of. Just a calm, ambient presence. Like resting your head on a familiar shoulder. The kind of stillness that doesn't ask you to move, but also doesn't stop you if you do. You rise slowly. The path is already beneath your feet. It always is. You step forward, and the world folds open like parchment soaked in tea. A new landscape reveals itself, not wild or misty or overgrown, but carefully maintained. Gardens stretch on both sides of the road. Not symmetrical, not planned, but loved. You see hedges pruned into shapes you half recognize. The curve of a gladius. The arc of a legion banner. A Roman numeral half swallowed by ivy. Someone tended this. Maybe the ninth. Maybe you. There's a bench beneath a cypress. You sit, because when a path offers a bench, the polite thing to do is accept. And the moment you do, your knees sigh with gratitude. They've carried centuries. They've earned this. A stream winds lazily beside the garden. Its surface reflects nothing, no sky, no face, just a gentle golden shimmer. You lean close. You expect to see your reflection, perhaps altered again. Instead, you see scrolls, dozens, hundreds, each floating just beneath the surface. They drift slowly, peacefully. You reach toward one. A ripple pushes your hand back. You understand. These stories aren't yours. Not yet. But one day, maybe, someone will read them. Maybe even about you. In the distance, you hear the soft clink of armor. Not marching, not fighting, just existing. Someone sharpening a blade, not out of need, but habit. Someone folding a tunic with quiet pride. These sounds are comfort. You pass a stone sundial that points to no direction. Instead of numbers, it bears words. Arrival, loss, stillness, becoming, return. The shadow rests between stillness and becoming. You nod. It feels right. A small dog follows you for half a day. Silent, curious, eyes like river stones. At one point, it brings you a sandal. Not yours, but familiar. You take it. You carry it. You place it on a cairn when you find one. Later that evening, you whisper, "Found." The dog wags once and walks away. You sleep in a grove of marble. Not statues, just marble trees. Branches catching light from a sky that doesn't glow. Your dreams are restful. No visions, no sounds. Just warmth and a feeling of enough. In the morning, you're greeted by a woman with bronze skin and a cloak made of pressed leaves. She doesn't speak. She holds out a hand. You take it. Together, you walk. Not far. Just enough. She shows you a tree whose bark is covered in names. Some you know. Some you've forgotten. Some you never learned. Yours is near the base. carved deeper than the rest. She touches it gently. Then your shoulder. Then she's gone. The road curves into mist. Not foreboding this time. This mist is soft. It smells of old ink and clean parchment. It parts as you step. You feel pages turning, not behind you, but around you. Each footstep flips a leaf in some eternal book. You don't try to read it. You just keep walking. You reach a place where gravity feels optional. Not gone, just negotiable. Your steps bounce a little higher. Your banner floats beside you now. Not dragging but guiding. The air tastes like rosemary and something sweet you can't name. You feel younger. You feel older. You feel correct. You sit by a pool shaped like an eye. Inside, you see scenes, not memories, but echoes. A soldier standing in a burning fort, whispering a prayer. A scribe losing a scroll to the wind and smiling. A cook placing an extra fig on someone's plate, just in case. These are not dramatic moments, but they are yours. You breathe deeply. You whisper, "Thank you." The pool blinks. You walk again. You pass a cairn top with an empty helmet. The same kind you wore on your first campaign. You tip your head toward it. "Still here?" you ask. The air doesn't answer, but your chest does. You feel a heartbeat that isn't yours. You walk on. A clearing opens. In its center, a giant stone table. Set for a meal. Plates. Cups. No food. Not yet. A seat is waiting for you. You don't sit. Not yet. But you touch the chair. It's warm. It recognizes you. The banner hovers nearby, shimmering faintly. You smile. You turn away. You're not done walking. Not yet. The sky opens again. This time, not to stars, but to something like stories. Lines of text drift slowly above you. Sentences in every language and none. You recognize a phrase. "He walked farther than memory." Another. "She did not return, but she was never lost." You laugh quietly. Then you keep walking. A fox crosses your path. Maybe the same one. Maybe all foxes are the same here. It pauses. Looks at you. You nod. It nods. Then it runs. You follow for a while. You do not catch up. You're not supposed to. Eventually, you come to a bridge. Wooden. Plain. Unmarked. It spans no river. No canyon. No chasm. Just change. You stand at the edge. Your banner floats beside you. It glows once. Then folds. Softly. It becomes a feather. It lands in your hand. You tuck it behind your ear. And step forward. On the other side, everything smells like home. But not the home you left. The one you never reached. Until now. Home is a strange word out here. It no longer means a place with a roof. Or a forum with fountains. Or even a province drawn in ink on a Roman scroll. It means something felt, not found. It means familiarity wrapped in mystery. And warmth that doesn't ask where you've been. It means this. The land ahead is soft and gold tinged. Not in color, necessarily, but in emotion. The grass sways slowly even without wind. Like it's exhaling just for you. You recognize none of the plants. And yet they don't feel foreign. Their names rise unbidden in your mind as you pass. Whisper cress. Restrewed. Legion leaf. You smile. Either the plants are teaching you. Or you've always known. You don't need to know which. You find a road made of sandals. Dozens, hundreds, pressed into the dirt. Not arranged like a path. But embedded. Their outlines softened by time. Each one tells a story. Worn heel. Snapped strap. Bloodstain turned to rust. You pause at one you swear is yours. You step into its imprint. It fits perfectly. You whisper. Still marching. The sandals rustle in unison. And then settle. There's a fountain in the middle of a field. It flows upward. The water never spills. You dip a hand into it. It tastes like triumph and sorrow, equal parts. A voice behind you says, "This is the place they remember you." You turn. No one there. But the voice was right. You are being remembered. Not by a person. By the world. Back in Eboricum, someone scratches your name into a clay tablet. They don't know why. They just feel they should. The clay dries in the sun. It doesn't crack. They store it in a drawer that no one opens for 2,000 years. But it will be found. And your story will flutter to life again. You reach a tree shaped like a standard. Each branch bears a symbol of a legion long forgotten. Some are real. Some are only whispered about in footnotes. At the very top is Ix. Not etched. Not nailed. Grown into the bark itself. You touch it. And something in you settles. Like a book falling shut after the final word. You pass through a tunnel made of antlers. White, smooth, interlocked like lattice. No bones, no blood, just memory, hardened into form. Inside the tunnel, the air hums. It sings the cadence of marching feet. Not warlike, just constant. You fall in step. You don't even notice you're humming along. You emerge into a hollow filled with banners. Every color, every symbol, even some that never existed. They rise and fall like reeds. Though there's no wind, in the center, yours appears. It rises, unfolds, and bows slightly toward you. You bow back. The banners shiver once, then return to stillness. There's a stone table ahead with 9 seats. 8 are full. None of the faces are familiar. And yet you know them all. One man with ink-stained hands. One woman with a wolf at her feet. One child, wearing a helmet too large. They nod. One seat remains. You approach. You rest your hand on its back. Then you shake your head. Not yet. The child smiles. They all understand. You continue on. The path becomes fine dust. It doesn't stick to you. It remembers your weight, but not your shape. It murmurs behind you, soft, affectionate, brief. You don't turn around, because you're not leaving anything behind. The forest returns. Not dense, just present. It walks with you, not around you. Each tree bows slightly as you pass. A leaf brushes your shoulder and tucks itself into your collar. You let it. You find a glade where every step echoes back a different moment. One is your first oath. One is the time you laughed until stew came out your nose. One is the silence before a battle. They rise, echo, then fade. You say, thank you, and they do not return again. You've acknowledged them. That's enough. There's a gate. No hinges. No lock. Just 2 tall stones with a line of light between them. You step through, and time lets go of you for a while. You're in a field of voices. They hum. They chant. They whisper. You hear your name among them, folded gently between syllables of places you've never been. Someone says, he kept walking. Another says, she listened. Another says, they remembered. And still another. Ix never fell. It walked onward. You sit, not from exhaustion, but from invitation. The grass curls around your legs like a blanket. The air slows, and you realize you're not alone. They've been walking beside you the entire time. Not seen, not heard, but always there. The ones who didn't finish the road. The ones who couldn't. The ones still trying. You let them rest in your breath. You reach into your pouch. Find nothing, and everything. One fig pit, a feather, a coin that shouldn't be there, and a pebble. You toss the pebble. It skips across invisible water. Each bounce becomes a word. Legacy, memory, step, rest. The 9th never vanished. Not really. They simply stopped needing to be seen, and began being felt. In roads that remember. In trees that listen. In paths that whisper your name when you pass. You rise. The field opens. And ahead, not a city, not a shrine, not even an ending. Just light, soft, constant, welcoming. You step into it, without hesitation, because this is what the march was always for. Not conquest, not return, just arrival. The 9th marches on, in you, in the footsteps behind you, in the story being written with every step. You've stopped asking how much farther. Not because you no longer care, but because the question itself no longer fits. Distance has become irrelevant. Far means something else now, measured in moments, not miles. In glances exchanged with the air. In the weight of a thought before it fades. You still walk, but you no longer travel. The path has flattened. Gravel gives way to soft earth again, and the edges of the trail blur into moss and memory. Trees here grow at peculiar angles, leaning toward you like curious strangers. They don't obstruct, only observe. You nod in greeting. One of them drops a single pine cone at your feet. You pick it up. It glows faintly. You tuck it away. Of course, there's a sensation now, one you can't quite place. Not déjà vu, more like pre-ya vu. Like everything around you already happened once, but to someone else. And now it's your turn to live it in reverse. Not repeating their steps, completing them. A bridge made of arrows stretches over a stream that babbles in Latin. The arrows are bound tip to tail, impossibly balanced. Each one is etched with the name of a soldier. Some of them sound familiar. Some are yours. You cross carefully. You do not fall. The water says, "Avenue." You say it back. You climb a hill without realizing you started. At the top is a stone platform. Circular, wide, etched with hundreds of footprints. All facing inward. You step into one that fits. The wind begins to circle. It picks up speed. Whispers rise. Not urgent. Just acknowledgements. I walked too. You are not alone. We were all afraid. You stand in silence. The platform warms. Then stills. You step off. And the footprints begin to fade. You walk into a grove where everything is silver. Leaves, bark, grass, even the light. It doesn't shimmer, it rests. You see shadows here, moving slowly, flickering like candlelight. None of them bother you. You feel them recognize you. You feel them smile. One offers you a cup. You drink. It tastes like the memory of water. Perfectly forgettable. Perfectly sufficient. A wall appears. Stone. Tall. Covered in carvings. But not Latin. Not any script you've seen. Still, you understand it. A story told in touch. The rise and fall of the night. Not glorious. Not tragic. Just true. You press your hand to it. The wall softens under your palm. You hear a breath, not yours. The wall exhales a single word. Continue. So you do. You walk through a garden shaped like a labyrinth. Not to trap you. To remind you. At every turn, a different part of your life. A training yard, filled with the sound of sandals on sand. A moment of hesitation before your first command. A fig, overripe and stolen from a market stall. Each memory leans toward you like a flower. You touch them. They bloom. Then fade. The path leads out. You don't get lost. You weren't meant to. The road narrows again, lined with armor. Not bodies, just the armor. Set upright, as if worn by air. You pass slowly between them. Each piece turns slightly toward you as you go. You see your own reflection, fractured, stretched, unfamiliar. Then, at the end, one full set remains unworn. You nod. You do not put it on. You've grown beyond it. You find a scroll, unmarked. But the moment you pick it up, it begins to write itself. Not in ink, in footsteps. Each line, a pace. Each curl, a turn in the road. Each pause, a night spent under stars that never asked your name. You roll it up and place it on a nearby shelf. It vanishes. Somewhere, someone will read it, and maybe they'll follow. You sit on a flat stone shaped like an open palm. In the sky above, 9 lights arrange themselves into a familiar formation. The pattern of a marching column. The formation of a patrol. The formation of a family. You raise your hand. The stars hold formation for a moment. Then scatter. It feels perfect. There's a fire ahead. No wood. No smoke. Just flame, suspended above a circle of stones. You step into the circle. The fire embraces you, not burns. Just accepts. It flickers around your shoulders like a shawl. It whispers a list of names. Your name is last. You say, present. And the fire goes out. You walk through a forest where everything has already bloomed. Spring, summer, harvest, all happening at once. Fruit hangs heavy. Leaves drift lazily. Birds sing songs that seem to know your cadence. You do not pick the fruit. But one falls gently into your hand. You bite it. It tastes like your childhood. You chew slowly. You swallow. And a tear rolls down your cheek without asking. A bench waits ahead. At its center, your old centurion. Or someone wearing his shape. He doesn't look surprised to see you. Just relieved. He gestures to the spot beside him. You sit. Neither of you speaks. He pats your knee once. Then fades like smoke. You remain seated. A little longer. Just to remember what it felt like to be a soldier in the shade. When you rise, the world feels lighter. Not because it's changed, but because you have. There's nothing left to carry now. No fear. No duty. No weight of history. Only story. And even that feels shared. Ahead, a tree has grown into the shape of a Roman gate. Carved into the trunk. The night never ends. It just becomes. You pass beneath it. The bark brushes your shoulders like a blessing. And the leaves fall in perfect silence. You sleep beneath the gate. That night, you dream you're back at camp. But everyone is quiet. Not sad. Just listening. You wake before dawn. The stars are still aligned like old comrades. You nod to them. And start walking again. Because the road wants to see how your story ends. The morning begins like a breath you didn't know you were holding. Soft light filters through a sky that no longer feels so far away. The sun, not hot or cold, just present, stretches over the land like a hand across a blanket. You walk beneath it, warm but not watched. The sky no longer judges you. It just knows you. And knowing is kinder than you expected. Today, the path is sand, not coarse, not desert, just fine, powdery, gold-pale sand that sighs under your heels. Each step leaves a footprint so perfect it could be pressed into a legion seal. You pause to examine one. It's not yours, but it matches your gait, your stride. It walks beside yours, not ahead, not behind. You look left, no one. You look right, still no one. But someone is walking with you. You just can't see them yet. A short rise leads to an overlook. Below, an enormous spiral carved into the earth. Not a crop circle, not a ruin. Something older, something intentional. You've seen it before. Etched on a coin, carved into a stone in the mist. Drawn in the dirt by a lost Optio just before he vanished. You never understood it. Now, you do. The spiral isn't a trap. It's a map, not of places, of perspective. You descend toward the spiral. With each step, a memory returns. The time you tried to skip kitchen duty and ended up cooking for 60. The storm in Germania when you sang off key until the thunder gave up. The moment before your first battle when your knees buckled, and your commander pretended not to see. Each memory settles into your bones like warmth into a cloak. You are being rebuilt. From within, at the center of the spiral is a pedestal. On it, your name. Beneath it, a question. If no one remembered, would you still walk? You trace the words with your finger. You whisper, yes. The spiral pulses, then fades into the ground like it was never there. You move on. The next stretch is flat. Still, like a page waiting for ink. There are no trees, no birds, only the steady beat of your own feet. And then, something strange, the sound of hooves. You pause. You look back. A horse stands behind you. Unridden, unsaddled. Its mane braided with cords of red and gold. You raise a hand. It approaches. It kneels. You mount it. It rises. And carries you. You don't ask where it's taking you. Because you know. Wherever it is ready. And so are you. The horse carries you through a region of quiet hills. Each one bears a different color. Greens you've never seen. Purples that pulse with memory. The horizon tilts gently. Not enough to disorient, but just enough to remind you that nothing here is flat. And nothing ever was. Atop one hill, you dismount. The horse vanishes the moment your boots touch the grass. You're not surprised. Instead, you bow to where it stood. The ground bows back. You walk down into the valley. There's a circle of stone columns ahead. 9, each one etched with different scripts. One in Latin, one in runes, one in something that looks like flame and flows like water. You walk to each one. Place your hand against the stone. Each column hums in reply. A different tone, a chord, if you stood far enough back. The 9th column is blank. You touch it. It does not hum. It sings. A long, low note that shakes the earth under your boots. Then it falls silent. You nod. You step back. And the stones crumble. Not with violence. With purpose. They do not fall. They settle. A path of mirrors appears ahead. Each one reflects a different version of you. One younger, laughing. One older, scarred. One dressed as a centurion. One with no armor at all. Each time you look, they pause and meet your gaze. Then step aside, until there is only one reflection left. Yourself. As you are. Exactly now. It raises its hand. You raise yours. And the mirror shatters. Not with noise. With light. You step into the glow. And everything quiets. Even your heartbeat. Even your thoughts. You find yourself beside a tree made of ash and gold. It bears fruit. Just one. It pulses with something between memory and music. You don't eat it. You sit beside it. You rest. Not because you need to. But because rest is also a step forward. Time folds. Hours pass. Or days. You stand again. The fruit is gone. In its place, a scroll. You pick it up. You open it. Inside is a single word. Remain. You understand. You walk on. And the landscape changes again. This time, to camp. Familiar tents. Low fires. Boots by door flaps. You walk among them. Men nod at you. One salutes. Another hands you a cup of water. You sip. It tastes like belonging. You reach the command tent. It's empty. But on the table is a map. Your path is drawn on it. Every step, every pause, every name you whispered, even the ones you forgot. The final point isn't marked. Just a circle. No words. Just space. You place the scroll beside it. And leave. The tent folds itself behind you. Outside, night has fallen. But it's not dark. The stars shine down in 9 perfect lines. The 9th, marching still. Forever overhead. You sleep under their glow. And dream of nothing. Because for once, nothing is all you need. The next morning, there's no sunrise. Not because the sun isn't there, it is, but because it doesn't need to rise anymore. It's simply present, a soft, ambient warmth that soaks into the grass, your boots, and the very thoughts you forgot you were thinking. You sit up slowly. The ground doesn't push back. Today feels like a new kind of day. One that doesn't begin, it just continues. You walk with ease now. The road no longer needs to appear beneath you. It just is wherever you place your foot. The difference between trail and field has blurred. You've become the path and the traveler both. There's no friction in this anymore. Just movement, like breath, like tide, like memory passing through time. You pass a lake the shape of a question mark. No fish, no ripples, no frogs. But there is a floating sign, just above the water, made entirely of birds in flight. It reads, "Do you still remember why you started?" You pause, then whisper, "Because I was told to." The birds flutter into new formation. "And why do you walk now?" You answer, without thinking, "Because I want to." The birds scatter into the sky. No applause, just acknowledgement. You walk on. You arrive at a slope of blue grass. At the top, a man sitting on a boulder, sharpening a sword. He doesn't look up as you approach. He speaks as though you've been mid-conversation. You're slower than most. You smirk. "I stop to appreciate things." He nods, still working. The sword glints once in a way no metal ever should. "Do you still need that?" you ask. He stops, thinks, then places the sword on the ground. It dissolves into wildflowers. He shrugs. "Guess not." You leave him there, not because he needs to be alone, but because he wants to be part of this moment exactly as it is. You find a slope that descends in gentle spirals. It feels familiar. You look down. Your footprints already mark it, though you've never walked this way before. You step into your own track. It fits like memory. Each spiral inward feels like returning to something you haven't yet reached. At the center of the spiral, there is a room. No walls, no ceiling, but a room nonetheless. There is a chair, a table, a set of dice, a letter with your name on it. You sit. You open the letter. Inside, you may stop at any time, but you never have to. You smile. You leave the letter on the table. You roll the dice. They land on X. Of course they do. You stand. The room fades. The spiral continues. Once, a philosopher in Rome argued that time is not a line, but a conversation. That memory folds inward, not outward, and that stories do not end, they just find softer places to land. You wonder if he ever walked this road. You think, maybe he built it. A breeze carries scents now. Not grass or earth, but scent is memory. Beeswax from a helmet cleaned before inspection. Fresh oil on a whetstone the morning of battle. Bread smuggled from a kitchen by someone who liked you just enough. Each scent carries a face. Each face, a chapter. You say their names aloud. Not to call them back. Just to let them be again. You approach a monument made entirely of breath. Not stone, not wood, just air, shaped by intention. You reach out. It resists your hand like wind. And within it, whispers drift like dust. One says, "I kept the line." Another, "I missed home." Another still, "I never regretted walking beside you." You bow. The monument exhales and disappears. You walk into a memory not your own. You see 2 legionnaires at a fire. One tells a joke so old it creaks. The other laughs anyway. You don't interrupt. They fade as you pass. But the joke lingers, and you find yourself smiling, even if you've forgotten the punchline. There's a stream shaped like a heartbeat. It flows in fits and pulses. You kneel, dip your hands in, feel something inside you sink with it. You listen closely. It's not water. It's footsteps, marching, a rhythm long held, and still carried. You whisper, "I remember." The stream whispers back, "We know." You pass through a grove of voices. They don't speak. They hum. Each note pulls at something inside you. Joy, fear, peace, regret. But they don't linger on any one feeling. They move through you like wind through banners. You let them. You leave lighter. You come to a stone arch. Above it, carved in perfect block letters. This is not the end. But you may rest. Beneath it, a bench. A meal. A blanket. You sit. You eat. You breathe. The stars above shift gently to form the number 9. You laugh softly. You look around. And realize, there are others here. Sitting. Resting. Not together. But not alone. Each one on their own bench. Each one holding a different part of the same story. You raise your cup toward them. They raise theirs. No toast spoken. No need. Just understanding. You sleep. And dream of feet in formation. Not forced. Not commanded. Just together. And then apart. But never lost. Never forgotten. Never truly gone. You wake. Refreshed. Whole. And still walking. Not because there's more to see. But because you become what the road has always known you could be. Not just a marcher. Not just a memory. But a story still being told. The path becomes clear not because the forest opens. But because you do. There are no more questions pulling at your sleeves. No doubts sitting heavy behind your eyes. Only a quiet certainty that whatever lies ahead is part of something that always was. Something you've been walking toward since long before anyone named you. You feel it in your shoulders. You feel it in your pace. You feel it in the silence that no longer needs to be broken. Today, the world feels like parchment, age, soft edge, and fragile in a beautiful way. You walk as if tracing ink with your feet. The breeze reads over your shoulder. Somewhere behind you, history follows quietly, taking notes. You come to a hill strewn with equipment. Shields, cloaks, belts, boots, laid neatly, not discarded, but offered. Each piece is worn but cared for. This isn't abandonment, it's release. A letting go. You stop, untie your belt, remove your boots, lay them down gently next to a cloak that reminds you of your first campaign. You feel taller somehow, and quieter. You walk on barefoot. The grass welcomes you. There's a clearing full of stone bowls. Each contains a single object. A handful of barley, a feather, a piece of flint, a carved bone, a ring that has no owner. You pick one bowl. It holds a key. You don't know what it opens. You pocket it anyway, just in case, just in trust. You reach a village made of silence. No people, no buildings, but you feel it, every part of it, the echo of community, of cooking fires, of boots lined neatly by tent flaps, of laughter that doesn't end in war. You sit where the forum would have been, and you wait. You don't expect anyone to come, but they do, not as bodies, as memory, and memory is company enough. In the real world, someone stumbles across a carved tile in a field outside York. It bears the mark of Legio 9. It's unremarkable at first. Then they notice the etching along the edge. A spiral. They don't publish a paper. They don't submit it to a journal. They keep it on their desk. They say it feels alive. Your banner is no longer beside you. You thought you'd lost it. But when you look ahead, it's already there, planted firmly in the earth, marking this ground as known. Not claimed, not conquered, just known. You approach it slowly, touch the shaft. The fabric ripples, not with wind, but recognition. You leave it standing. You no longer need to carry it. You've become what it stands for. There's a glade made of woven light. It pulses like a heartbeat. As you enter, a low hum rises, not music, not voice, but presence. It lifts your steps. You glide more than walk. The grass bends out of your way. You close your eyes, let yourself drift, and when you open them, the glade is gone, but the hum remains. In your ribs, in your throat, you hum back. The world listens. A child meets you at a fork. You've seen her before, or someone like her. She offers you 2 stones. Both identical. You choose the one in her left hand. She smiles, and turns to smoke. The stone is warm. It hums like the glade. You keep it. You walk past a pool where memories ripple like koi. You see scenes from every march, every joke, every letter you never sent. One memory pauses when you look closer. A man with his arm around your shoulder, whispering, "You're not as lost as you think." You nod. You walk on. An orchard appears, but the fruit is unripe. You touch a branch. The tree leans closer. The fruit blooms instantly. You pluck one. Take a bite. It tastes like the letter you never finished. The one you meant to send home, but couldn't. You finish chewing. You smile. Message received. The next path leads through darkness. Not threatening, just full. You feel watched, but not in a dangerous way. In a remembered way, like eyes that have missed you. A hand brushes yours. Familiar. Gone before you can respond. You say, I'm still walking. The darkness breathes. Good. At dawn, you enter a camp that's been waiting for centuries. The fires are lit. The gear is lined up. But there are no voices. Just peace. You rest. Not because you must. Because the place asks you to. A figure approaches from the mist. He salutes. You return it. No names are exchanged. None are needed. He gestures to the horizon. You nod. And continue together. He hums an old march cadence. You join him. Your feet fall into perfect step. The rhythm is ancient, but your bodies remember. You stop beside a tree. He places his hand on the bark. And disappears. Not vanishes. Just steps into the tree. Like going home. You whisper, thank you. The tree rustles. You continue alone. The road begins to shimmer. Not with heat. With story. Every pebble beneath your feet is a syllable. You're walking through a sentence. You don't need to know what it says. You just need to be it. You find a stone carved with a riddle. When does a legion end? You write your answer in the dust. When the last footstep forgets. The stone hums. Then crumbles into moss. You cross a field of banners stuck into the ground. Each one flutters. Even without wind. One bears your handwriting. From a letter never delivered. You stop. You read it. It says only, we're still here. You fold it. You place it in your chest pocket. Where your heart agrees. You sleep that night with your head on packed earth. The sky drapes itself in silence. You do not dream. You remember. And remembering is enough. By now, the march feels less like effort and more like instinct. Like the kind of quiet breathing that continues even in deep sleep. You don't question where the road leads anymore. It's not about answers. It's about presence. And today, you are very present. You rise with a feeling, not a sound. Not a sight, but a sense. Like something ancient just opened its eyes. The air smells like the inside of a sealed amphora. Dust, and sunlight, and a hint of whatever memory was corked inside. You walk toward it. Of course you do. You find the edge of a stone platform, partially sunken into a field of dry reeds. It's covered in boot prints. Not fresh, not new, but somehow still warm. Your hand touches the edge. The stone hums softly under your fingertips. Like a lion purring in its sleep. You whisper, we passed this way. The wind answers with the soft scuff of sandals across gravel. As you walk, your surroundings begin to feel unfamiliar again. But not in a threatening way. More like walking into a neighbor's kitchen and realizing all the mugs are in the wrong cabinets. Familiar shapes. Strange arrangements. The world is shifting. But kindly. You pass through a grove of hanging cloth. Banners? Shrouds? Letters? Each one inscribed with a different phrase in a dozen languages. The march was long, but we sang. I carried the banner. Even after it fell. They said we were gone. But we were just quiet. You pause at one written in curling Caledonian script. It simply reads, Rome forgot, but we didn't. You place your hand on it. It turns to mist, and joins the sky. A path of polished stones appears beneath you. Dotted with embedded coins. Some Roman, some not. Each one placed with intention. A gift, an anchor, a memory traded for safe passage. You walk across them gently. You don't need to take them. They're not yours. They belong to the journey itself. The horizon becomes a forest, but not of trees. Of standards. Old legion banners. Planted like trees. Their fabric hardened by time and story. You step between them. Each one whispers as you pass. Not orders. Not regrets. Just acknowledgement. He survived. She carried us. They remembered the way. One banner flutters and wraps softly around your shoulders. You let it. Then it unravels itself. And becomes a bird. It flies upward. There's a small structure ahead, wooden. Round. Roofed with woven reeds. It feels impossibly old. You step inside. It's filled with carved tokens. Each one bears the name of someone you served beside. Some you forgot. Some you lost. Some you didn't know you remembered. Each token turns slowly in the air. Suspended. Not magical. Just honored. You find your own name. Carved on the back of a spoon. You smile. That tracks. The hut fades behind you. You descend a slope into what looks like a battlefield. But there are no bodies. Only footprints. Thousands. Frozen in mud turned to stone. Each step tells a story. One dragging slightly from an injured left leg. One pacing nervously in place. One dancing, for no reason at all. You step between them. You do not disturb them. You listen. In the distance, you hear the call of a horn. Not urgent. Not summoning. Just calling. Like it always has. You follow it. You reach a pool of water so still it reflects your thoughts before your face. You kneel. You whisper a name. The pool responds by showing you laughter. You whisper another. It shows you a campfire. You whisper a third. It shows you a sword buried beside a fig tree. These are not graves. They are touchstones. The water is memory. Not bound to grief. Just holding space. You step away. Not cleansed. Not absolved. But lighter. A woman waits at the edge of the next rise. Dressed in armor that predates Rome itself. She nods. Walks beside you. Says nothing for a long time. Then, softly, even stone forgets. You reply, but soil remembers. She smiles. Steps into the earth. Vanishes. A small flower grows where she stood. It hums quietly. You walk on. There's a staircase carved into a hill of clay. Each step is labeled with a year. But the years aren't sequential. They curve. They rewind. They skip centuries like stones across water. At the top, no door. Just a breeze carrying a phrase. The ninth wasn't lost. It just walked out of time. You nod. That sounds about right. You reach a town with no roofs. Just open beams. Lattices. Walkways in the air. You walk among them. Children made of fog play beside you. One offers you a stick. You take it. It turns into a quill. You draw a spiral in the dirt. They laugh. The spiral lifts into the air. And flies away. At the edge of town, a man tends a garden of boots. You raise an eyebrow. He shrugs. They always come back here. Thought I'd help them bloom. You nod. Solemn. One boot grows a small flower through its soul. It smells like leather and lavender. You walk on. You camp beneath a tree whose leaves fall in perfect Latin verses. One lands in your lap. You read it. It says, "Not all roads end. Some become rivers." You fold the leaf. Place it in your pouch. You don't know when you'll need it. But you will. That night, you dream of a staircase into the sky. At each step, a legionnaire. Seated, nodding to you. You climb past hundreds. No one speaks. But each face whispers with its eyes. We made it. You reach the top. And there's no summit. Just a soft plateau. And an open field. You lie down. Face to the stars. And sleep. Not because you must. But because the story is still unfolding. And dreams help it grow. When you wake, the stars are still visible, even though the sky has brightened. A soft, silver blue light fills the air. Like moonlight remembered in the morning. The world feels half asleep. And so do you. But that's the right state for this part of the journey. Because today, something begins to take shape. Not a new road, not even a revelation, but a structure, a pattern, a wall. You reach its base before you realize what it is. Massive, quiet, stretching in either direction beyond sight. It breathes, not literally, but it feels alive. Not pulsing, but present. You lay a hand against the cold stone. It does not resist. It simply waits. Hadrian's Wall. Not yet the wall of tourist photos and drone footage. But the first version. The living version. Being built, one stone at a time. Not by slaves. By soldiers. By hands like yours. Maybe even your hands. Once. The stones are not perfect. Some still bear fingerprints. Some have notes scrawled in charcoal. Flavius was here. Day 9. Still raining. Do not remove this one, it wobbles. You chuckle softly. Even walls have personality. You begin walking the length of it. Not patrolling. Just listening. And it tells you things. Not with words, but with shape. A wall is not just a barrier. It's a decision, a compromise, a record of fear, and pride, and stubbornness baked into stone. As you move along it, you pass groups of workers. Some you recognize, others are unfamiliar, but nod to you like an old friend. One offers you bread, Another passes a canteen. You realize no one's asking why you're here. Because they already know. You are the ninth. You carry them. And they carry you. At a watchtower, someone reads aloud from a tablet. Not orders, but a poem. About birds. About home. About missing the sound of goats in the morning. You sit for a while. Let the words trickle into your thoughts. Then you move on. Not because the moment ended. Because it became part of you. The wall turns. You follow. There's a bend where a stone is missing. You stop. Pick one up from a nearby pile. You place it gently in the gap. It fits. No ceremony. No applause. But the wall feels more complete now. So do you. A fox runs along the wall's edge. It stops. Looks at you. Then keeps going. You follow it. Because why not? The fox leads you to a grove where the wall ends abruptly. Or maybe begins. It's hard to tell. The fox disappears. In its place, a child waits. They hold a wooden sword. They hand it to you. No words. Just an offering. You take it. It's too light to be a weapon. Too old to be a toy. It's a reminder. You tuck it through your belt. And bow. The child vanishes into the trees. You sit near the wall's edge and look out over Caledonia. The land rolls away. Unruly. Green. Wild. Untamed. Unclaimed. And beautiful. You understand now why Rome never took it. It wasn't fear. It wasn't weakness. It was respect. Sometimes, things aren't meant to be owned. Only walked through. And remembered. You stand. The wooden sword taps lightly against your hip. A voice rises behind you, faint. Familiar. We marched north to leave something behind. You nod. Not regret. Just history. The wall is behind you now. You walk forward into the highlands. The air smells like wet stone and old fables. You find remnants of camps no one recorded. Fire pits ringed with bones that tell no stories. Stones stacked in spirals like ancient calendars. Shields laid in circles, facing inward. You pass through them in silence. Not mourning, just recognition. You sleep beside a waterfall that murmurs in Latin conjugations. You dream of writing letters you'll never send. You wake with ink-stained fingers. And no regrets. You descend into a valley filled with echoes. They don't repeat your words. They complete them. You say, I still wonder if. And the valley answers, they made it home. You say, we never had a chance to. It finishes. Say goodbye. You whisper, thank you. It whispers back, always. A cairn waits on the next hill. You add your stone to the top. It sighs. A gust of wind carries away the dust. And a moment later, you forget what you added. But the cairn remembers. And that's enough. You meet an old man carrying a spear that's taller than he is. He grins at you. I was the cook, he says. You nod. I remember the stew. He laughs. No, you don't. You laugh too. He walks beside you for a while. Then stops to pick herbs you can't name. Some of us stayed, he says. You nod. He waves. He's gone. You come to a river made entirely of names. They float on the surface like lily pads. Each one ripples gently as you pass. You wade through. They don't claim. They bless. You emerge soaked in memory. And warmed by it. That night, the stars arrange themselves in a new way. Not as soldiers. Not as a column. But as a doorway. You fall asleep beneath them. And dream not of marching. But of standing still. And knowing you are enough. Morning comes quietly. No dramatic sunrise. No trumpets in the clouds. Just the slow unraveling of night. Like a soldier loosening his sandals after a long patrol. You stretch. The world stretches with you. Even the air feels like it's exhaling. And somewhere beneath it all, the steady rhythm of your steps begins again, soft, sure, and gently inevitable. Today, the land is open. Wide moors, scattered stones, and a horizon that always stays just a bit out of reach. But there's comfort in that. It means there's still story left. Still distance to weave into memory. You crest a hill and see a caravan of travelers winding below. They're not soldiers, not settlers, just people, carrying bundles, dragging stories behind them like the tails of kites. One of them waves to you. Another offers a pipe. You sit for a while. They tell stories of their ancestors, of wind spirits, of a boy who married a thundercloud. You tell them about the ninth, not in speeches, in gestures, in a name carved into a tree, in a rhythm tapped on your knees. They nod. They understand. Stories don't need to match. They just need to echo. You move on. Alone again. But fuller. Like you're carrying their stories alongside yours now. And yours has grown for it. A path appears beneath your feet, dotted with strange artifacts. A twisted iron nail. A bronze mirror. Cracked but still reflective. A sandal print frozen in petrified ash. A small clay figure of a woman with no face. You don't touch them. You don't need to. They're not relics. They're reminders. You come across a small pond shaped like a footprint. It smells like thyme and salt. You kneel beside it. Look into the reflection. This time, you see someone else. A younger version of yourself. One still marching. Still unsure. Still hoping the next campfire would bring answers. You smile at him. He raises a hand. You raise yours. He turns and disappears into the water. You let him go. A breeze passes that smells like iron and oranges. You know that smell. Camp rations from a supply shipment gone strange. You laugh. It turns into a cough. But even that feels nostalgic. You cross a bridge made entirely of shields. They're old, scarred. One still bears your handwriting. Property of no one. Leave alone. You smile. So does the bridge. Ahead, a group of women sit in a ring, weaving cloth from spider silk and old scrolls. They don't look up as you pass. But one tosses you a thread. You catch it. It dissolves. And suddenly, you remember a face you'd long forgotten. His laugh. His terrible handwriting. The way he always called you, Commander. Even though you weren't. You say his name aloud. The wind repeats it back. Then lets it go. The terrain shifts again, becomes steep. Rocky. But you barely notice. Your feet are sure. Your balance. Perfect. You're not climbing. You're ascending. Not to a peak. To a memory. At the top. A circle of stones. Inside it. 9 objects. Each one from a different soldier. Each one something small. A tooth. A coin. A prayer written on leather. A single playing die. A broken comb. A ring made of twine. A cracked cup. A sliver of bone carved into a crescent. And a pine cone. The one you picked up long ago. You place it among the others. The circle glows faintly. And fades into the earth. You walk on. Next. A library with no books. Just shelves filled with sandals. Each pair whispers softly. You pick one up. It whispers. We never ran. You put it back. And whisper. I know. You pass through fog so thick you can barely see. But you're not afraid. You know what fog means now. It's a blessing. A veil. An invitation to trust. You close your eyes. Keep walking. When the fog clears, you're on a new path. And it feels right. You find a camp. Empty. But not abandoned. Tents perfectly pitched. Fires glowing. Food warm. You sit. Eat. Rest. A note waits beside your bowl. The road will remember where you left off. You smile. You tear the note in half. Toss it into the fire. Sometimes, it's okay not to leave a trail. Night comes. You sleep under a sky painted with constellations you don't know. You name them anyway. One looks like a wine jug. Another, a sandal. Another, like the spine of a long-forgotten joke. You laugh. You drift. In your dream, the entire night marches across a field of stars. No formation. No weapons. Just walking, talking, living. One of them sees you. Says, about time. You grin. Fall into step. You wake to the sound of wind rustling through memories. And the path, as always, waiting. But today, it feels different. Because now, it's not just about where you go. It's about what the night took with them. Not treasure. Not conquest. But a way of walking. A way of remembering. A rhythm that doesn't die. Even when no one speaks it aloud. You're that rhythm. You walk. Because someone must. And because someone always will. The morning greets you like a quiet nod from an old friend. No words. Just shared recognition. You've walked long enough now that even the sky feels familiar, worn in. Like the inside of a well-loved cloak. The breeze is gentle. The path, steady. But there's a shift in the air. Not ominous. Not threatening. Just curious. Today, you feel watched, not by danger. But by possibility. You come upon a road that splits into two. To the left, a path that looks Roman. Neat, well paved, marked by milestones bearing dates and distances. To the right, a dusty, sun-drenched trail scattered with pottery shards, olive branches, and inscriptions in Greek, Latin, and something that looks like Aramaic. A signpost sits between the forks. It reads, "The Syrian ninth?" You raise an eyebrow. The right path seems to shimmer. So, naturally, you take it. As you walk, the landscape changes. The air grows warmer, drier. The hills roll out into golden valleys and distant hills that shimmer like heat mirages. You pass caravans, camels, merchants muttering in a dozen dialects. A child waves at you from beneath a date palm. You wave back. This isn't Britannia anymore. You've wandered into the realm of speculation, of rumor, of the maybe they went there theories. And somehow, it feels right. Like memory has taken a detour. But on purpose. You reach a stone fort on the edge of a desert. The guards wear Roman armor, but slightly off. Leather that's too soft. Helmets shaped just a little differently. They eye you carefully. One of them says, "Legio Nona?" You nod, instinctively. He grins. "Thought so. Come in." Inside the fort, everything is familiar, but slightly altered. The barracks are shaded with woven reeds. The mess hall serves flatbread with olive paste. The latrines are, well, latrines. Some things never change. You hear laughter, and a cadence you remember from Britain, but sung in a different accent. You follow it to the training ground. There they are, drilling, marching, the rhythm unmistakable. The ninth? Or something else? You approach a centurion reading a scroll. He glances up, squints. "I knew someone would come eventually," he says. You raise an eyebrow. He rolls up the scroll. "History thinks we vanished, that we died in Caledonia, that we were buried under peat and myth." He smiles. "But we were transferred." You frown. He shrugs. "No proof, no records, but we kept marching, just elsewhere." You walk through the fort. It hums with continuity. Faded plaques, old standards, a shield bearing the eagle, though its wings are now cracked with time. You find a wall with names scratched into it. Dozens. Some familiar, some in new scripts. One matches your handwriting. It's dated, years from now. You blink. Step back. The wall doesn't change. You smile. Night falls in the desert. You sit on a low wall, watching the stars. They're not the same stars as in Britannia, but they pulse with similar rhythm. Someone beside you passes a cup of something spiced and strong. You drink. It tastes like memory, filtered through sunlight. You ask him, "Are you the ninth?" He laughs. "Who's asking?" You laugh too. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe being the ninth is less about where, and more about how. How you carry the story. How you pass it on. In the morning, you wake outside the fort. There's no gate behind you. No wall. No sand. Just a gentle slope and birdsong you haven't heard since York. You dust off your cloak and continue walking. The trail shifts again, this time into metaphor. Every step lands on a maybe. Each rock whispers a what if? This is the domain of mystery now, of absence wrapped in curiosity. You pass a campfire that burns without wood. Just smoke and speculation. You sit beside it. Whispers float through the heat. They were ambushed by rebels. They were reassigned to Judea. They dissolved into civilian life. Nameless. They became mercenaries. Far from Rome. You listen. You don't argue. Each story has weight, but none are heavy. Further on, you find a man carving a spiral into a rock. He turns, says nothing, just nods. You nod back. He finishes the spiral, and the stone melts into sand. You walk through it. On the other side, a scroll pinned to a tree. It reads, "Does it matter where they went, or only that they walked?" You tear it down, fold it gently, place it with the leaf from Hadrian's wall. Your collection grows. You walk into a library carved into a cliff. Inside, stories of every legion. But the ninth scroll is blank. You dip a quill into ink. You write, "We were many things. Lost is not one of them." The scroll glows, then vanishes. The librarian bows to you. You bow back. You rest in a garden where the trees grow fruit shaped like helmets. You bite into one. It tastes like cumin, salt, and the sound of marching feet in early morning mist. You don't question it. Why would you? At sunset, you find a mosaic halfway finished. It shows a soldier walking, alone, yet surrounded by shadows of others. You pick up a tile. Place it in the gap. The mosaic sighs, and the image shifts. Now, the soldier is walking with them. You smile. You leave. That night, your dream is simple. Just footsteps. Marching in rhythm. Not loud. Not fierce. Just steady. And when you wake, the rhythm continues in your chest. You place a hand there. And say, softly, we're still walking. The world you wake to is different, not in shape. Not in sound, but in tone. It's quieter than usual. Even the birds seem to be whispering. The trees sway like they're nodding in slow agreement. Today, everything feels suspended, like a held breath. And you feel like the answer to a question that hasn't been asked in centuries. You find a folded cloth beside your bedroll. It's blue-gray, weather-worn, stitched with the faint outline of an eagle. You pick it up, hold it against your chest. It smells like dust and memory. There's no note. There doesn't need to be. The cloth knows you, and you carry it again. Not as burden, as honor. You walk, and soon arrive at a strange crossroad. No signposts, no travelers, just 4 roads, each stretching into different biomes. One into snow, one into jungle, one into sand, one into fog. You smile, and take the fog, because you've come to trust what you can't see. As you walk, the fog shifts with every step. Becomes memory, becomes myth. You pass through fragments of time. A Roman boy whispering to a stone eagle. A woman in armor, teaching children to march for fun. A cook stirring soup with a gladius. You chuckle. They smile as you pass. None of it feels strange anymore. Just familiar in a new kind of way. You come to a chamber carved into a cliff. No guards. No door. Just a sign that reads, romance, ruin, and rewrites. You step inside. It smells like parchment, ink, and dreams that got out of hand. Scrolls line every wall. Some cracked with age. Others suspiciously fresh. You pluck one off the shelf. It reads, the ninth was betrayed by their commander and sold to Parthians. You raise an eyebrow. Replace the scroll. Pick another. They marched into the mists of Caledonia to pursue a vision and never returned. Another. They defected and founded a new society underground, known only to whispers. You grin. And one more. They were never real. A literary invention to stir patriotism. You laugh out loud. This is the room of retellings, where the ninth was made legend, folded into tales, stripped of its sweat and sandals, and turned into fable. A man appears behind a desk of stacked manuscripts. He's writing with both hands. He doesn't look up. You want the real story? You shrug. I think I already have it. He nods, smiles faintly. Good, because no one else does. You place a scroll on his desk, your own. He doesn't open it, just adds it to the stack. Another thread for the tapestry. You leave. Outside, the fog lifts a little. And you hear voices. Not loud, not clear. Just layers upon layers of storytelling. Children reciting tales. Scholars debating in Latin. A podcaster mispronouncing Nona Hispania. You laugh softly. They're trying. And that matters. You pass a tree hung with masks. Each one bearing a different interpretation of the ninth. The doomed, the cursed, the forgotten, the brave, the myth, the footnote. You take none, but you bow to each. Even the silly ones. Especially the silly ones. Because every version carried a part of the truth. Just distorted by distance. Like a standard glimpsed in a sandstorm. At the edge of the forest of fog, you find a strange object. A book with no spine. Its pages aren't blank, but they're all your handwriting. You flip through it. It documents every moment you thought no one saw. When you gave your only blanket to a shivering recruit. When you laughed so hard at dinner you spilled lentils everywhere. When you wept behind the latrine wall after that awful march. You close the book. Place it on a stump. Someone else will need it. A young boy steps from the brush. He points to your sandals. They're worn out, he says. You look down. He's right. He hands you a new pair. Made of bark and silk and something that feels like starlight. You thank him. He nods solemnly. And runs off, yelling. They're not lost. Just walking funny. You laugh. You put on the sandals. They fit. You come to a river made of ink. Writers sit along its bank, dipping reeds into the current. One waves at you. Need a biographer? You grin. I think I'm good. He shrugs. Suit yourself. We're booked through the century anyway. You walk across the water. It doesn't ripple. It records. On the far bank, a bonfire burns with scrolls that never got it quite right. No bitterness. Just release. A man tosses one in and turns to you. He wears armor from 3 different centuries. He salutes. Not formally. Just enough. You return it. He fades. You sleep under a canopy of forgotten tales. Each leaf bears the name of someone who almost told your story. But not quite. They rustle gently. You whisper, "Thank you anyway." They whisper back, "We tried." When you wake, you're holding a thread, fine as spider silk. You don't remember picking it up. But it hums with potential. You tie it around your wrist. It disappears into your skin. You smile. It's not about the version others tell. It's about the one you carry. The one you live. You keep walking. Not toward a better ending. Just toward more story. Because the 9th was never about one chapter. It was, and still is, a saga. By now, your steps barely make a sound. Not because you're light-footed, but because the road has learned you. It welcomes you like an old friend sliding across a bench to make room. This morning smells like old paper and melted wax. Like indoor air and dusty reels of film. A carved wooden gate appears ahead. Above it, a painted sign in modern blocky letters. Hollywood gets involved. You pause, take a deep breath, and step through. You find yourself in a strange courtyard. Half Roman camp, half film studio. A director yells across the square in a toga and sunglasses. Extras march back and forth, adjusting plastic shields. Someone mutters, "Cut," again, with more gravitas. You smile. This is where the 9th became entertainment. Where it was rewritten, reshot, and reimagined for bored matinees and prestige drama. And now you're walking through it. A prop cart rolls past, stacked high with inconsistent helmets and historically suspect swords. You follow it into the costume tent. Inside, racks of armor hang like forgotten dreams. Each bears a tag. 9th Legion, 1950s. Gritty reboot, 1990s. Streaming epic, Season 1 Episode 4, unused. You run your hand over the breastplate labeled Heroic Survivor. It's shiny. A little too shiny. Still, it's sincere in its own way. You nod to it. Move on. Outside, they're filming a scene. A lone soldier stares into the mist. Monologuing. "We marched north to find honor. And found only silence." He's good. A little dramatic. Sure. But there's heart. You whisper. "We also found goats. Bad beer. And rain." No one hears. But a nearby boom mic shivers. Like it caught something anyway. You explore the lot. There's a soundstage painted like Caledonia, papier-mâché cliffs and foam heather. You step into it. It's not real. But you can still feel something ancient beneath the rubber moss. A trailer door creaks open. Inside, a writer hunched over a script, surrounded by maps and coffee cups. You peek. The cover page reads, "The 9th, a historical fantasy inspired by vague facts." You clear your throat. She looks up, eyes widen. "Wait, are you?" You shake your head. "Just a traveler." She exhales. "I've rewritten this 4 times. Ambush? Betrayal? Supernatural fog?" You smile. "What do you think happened?" She shrugs. "I think they marched into legend because no one stopped them." You nod. "Close enough." You leave her smiling. And editing. Next, a museum corridor materializes. Each room displays a different version of the 9th. A diorama of terrified teens in chainmail. A comic book cover. 9th Legion versus the Monster of the North. A wax figure of a centurion mid-screen. Captioned, "Dramatization." It's all a little much. And somehow, also not enough. But you don't feel insulted. You feel amused. They're trying. And sometimes, that's the best gift history gets. One hallway plays looping scenes from various adaptations. A solemn HBO drama with sweeping orchestral music. A Saturday morning cartoon featuring time-traveling Romans. A docudrama hosted by a man in suspenders who keeps saying, "allegedly." You sit for a while. Let the montage wash over you. Inaccuracies. Overacting. Goosebumps. The works. You smile. Because you see it now. The 9th lives in every retelling. Even the clumsy ones. Especially those. They keep the footsteps going. Even if the path is creatively drawn. You pass a door marked Critics Room. You step in. Find a round table of modern historians arguing. The 9th was reassigned, not annihilated. They were never lost, just poorly documented. This entire mystery is a narrative trap. You sit down. Pour some tea. They glance at you. One says, "And who do you think you are?" You reply, just someone who marched. They pause, then nod. Fair. You sip your tea, then leave. Backstage, you find a dressing room with a mirror. On the table, makeup smudges, wig glue, fake blood. You look into the mirror. For a moment, you're wearing all the versions. The doomed hero, the last survivor, the comic relief. Then the mirror fogs up, and only you remain, unscripted, uncaptioned. Enough. Outside, the set dissolves, back into open sky, back into your real march. But you carry something new now. Not props, not plot twists, but recognition that every story told, no matter how offbeat, is a torch passed. And torches matter, especially in the fog. As you walk, you hear music. A sweeping soundtrack rises behind you. Strings, drums, a flute that sounds suspiciously like a recorder. You grin, look up. A single banner flutters above the hill. You don't run, you just walk toward it. The music swells, and just before it becomes too much, it fades. Back to birdsong, back to soft wind, back to you. You sit beneath the banner. It's blank. You pull out the thread tied around your wrist. Wrap it once around the pole. It shimmers faintly, then vanishes. Message sent. To whoever's watching. To whoever's dreaming this next. Because the ninth never needed one version. They just needed to be told. And now, they have been. The world feels quieter now. Not emptier, just settled. Like someone's just finished telling a long story. And the silence afterward is its own kind of punctuation. You walk slowly, not because you're tired, but because there's no hurry anymore. The weight that once drove your steps forward, questions, theories, loose ends, has lightened. Today isn't about finding answers. It's about meeting other questions. The path you take now isn't one road, it's many. Worn tracks, dry riverbeds, half-remembered game trails that twist and cross like veins in a hand. And with each turn, you see signs of others. Not the ninth, but those who, like the ninth, vanished into history. Not from failure, but from forgetting. You enter a field where the grass grows in spirals. You kneel, and in each spiral's center, a name carved into stone. Legio 21 Rapics, the 10,000 Greeks, the lost regiment of Roanoke, the vanished caravan of Ubar. Each a footnote, each a silence. You place your hand on the nearest stone. It's warm, and quietly humming. The ninth was not alone. And somehow, that comforts you. You walk on. Next, a colonnade of statues stretches before you. Each figure carved in the moment before they disappeared. A sailor shading her eyes from a storm. A shepherd turning toward a shadow in the hills. A merchant laughing as he crosses a city gate for the last time. Each one poised mid-life. Not lost, just moved out of frame. You stop before a statue of a Roman boy. His hand holds a stylus. His wax tablet still blank. His face half smiling, as if he knew no one would record his story. You whisper, "Sorry we missed you." The statue winks. Or maybe that was the light. The path narrows, becomes a staircase descending into earth. Each step marked with the name of a forgotten expedition. You pass. The Yellow Fleet. The Nine Unknown. The shadow emissaries of Shion. The stone is soft underfoot. And the deeper you go, the cooler the air becomes. Not cold, just careful. At the bottom, a cavern lit by bioluminescent moss. In its center, a well. You look inside. It doesn't reflect your face. It shows all the missing. Not just soldiers, but languages, rituals, customs that never made it into textbooks. A lullaby sung only once. A recipe never written down. You whisper, "I see you." The water glows brighter, then stills. You sit at the edge of the well. A figure appears beside you, wrapped in a cloak too old for memory. He says nothing. You don't need him to. After a while, he passes you a small object. A flute, carved with Ninth Legion symbols. You hold it, then play a single note. It echoes, across centuries. Then returns, slightly altered, as if someone, somewhere, heard it, and answered. You ascend from the cavern. Step into daylight. Now the world feels different again. Not because you've changed, but because you've met the others. And suddenly, the ninth is no longer a singular question. They're part of a pattern. A constellation of disappearances, connected not by mystery, but by myth-making. You reach a grove of trees whose leaves are books. Each leaf tells a different ending to a different, lost, tale. Some end in survival, some in tragedy, some in quiet assimilation. You touch one leaf. It whispers. Sometimes we didn't vanish. We just blended in. You nod. Then let the leaf fall. At the center of the grove, a single chair. You sit. A quill appears in your hand. You write a single sentence in the air. They marched into silence, but they were never alone. The words hang there, then dissolve. A bell tolls somewhere in the distance. You follow the sound. It leads you to a clearing where other travelers sit. Some with Roman crests, others in armor of different styles. A few wear no uniform at all. They nod as you arrive. One offers a drink, another, a worn map. No one speaks, but the silence is full. As you sit, someone pokes the fire. Embers rise, and in them, you see brief flashes. A legionnaire teaching locals how to build aqueducts. A banner hung in a temple half a world away. A single word, Nanus, etched into a cave wall in North Africa. Each flicker adds another thread. Not to a mystery, but to a legacy. Later, someone begins humming. You recognize the tune. It's the cadence the ninth used while marching. But slower, more like a lullaby. You hum along. So do others. The fire softens, and the night holds you all in place. You lie back in the grass, and let the stars do what they do best. Shine quietly. Hold secrets. Whisper comfort. You drift, not from exhaustion, but from understanding. Because now, you know, the ninth didn't vanish. They simply stepped sideways into story. And in that story, they found company. And now, so have you. The sun rises slow and syrupy, stretching shadows across the open road. You wake with your head against a soft moss-covered stone that's cradled your sleep like a pillow offered by the past. You don't rush. Not today. There's a different weight in your chest, not heavy, but significant. You feel it with every breath. Today, you walk into something harder to face than mystery. You walk into the space where things are forgotten on purpose. A rusted gate swings open with a sigh. Above it, a faded plaque. The politics of forgetting. No guards. No signs. Just silence. You step in. The ground here is different. Dry. Compacted. Like history's been pressed down. Over and over. Until even the grass refuses to grow. You walk past stone tablets half sanded clean. Inscriptions that once proclaimed victories now scrubbed to vague symbols. You reach one and kneel. Its letters say only, leg. The rest is gone. Not weathered. Erased. You pass rows of statues. Each turned to face the wall. None have names. Each plinth bears a single word. Inconvenient. Disgraced. Revised. Irrelevant. Misfiled. You whisper, I remember you. A breeze picks up. It carries the scent of old ink and even older silence. At the center of this forgotten zone, a small amphitheater. Empty benches. A stage with no spotlight. Just a lectern. And beside it, a file cabinet. You open the drawer. It creaks. Inside, dossiers. Official looking. Stamped. Sealed. But inside? Blank sheets. You flip through them. Each labeled. 9th Legion, suppressed. 9th Legion, reassignment rumor control. 9th Legion, cultural impact minimal. You blink. You look again. Still blank. Because nothing was recorded, which is its own kind of answer. You close the drawer gently. Return to the stage. You whisper into the silence. They were real. Your voice doesn't echo. It absorbs. Like the place tried to swallow it. But couldn't. You move on. Into an archive where scrolls have been redacted. Passages blacked out. Margins filled with someone's nervous handwriting. Redacted for morale. You laugh. Softly. Because even history censors itself with a quill and a shaky hand. One corridor is blocked off with rope. A plaque says, sensitive unit losses, do not investigate. You step over the rope. Inside, murals, half painted. A centurion holding a tattered standard. Soldiers marching in snow. A burning camp, perhaps Caledonia. Perhaps not, but none of it finished. The painter clearly stopped. Or was stopped. You sit. Stare at the unfinished mural. And in your mind, you complete it. You see the end not as defeat, but as dispersion. A dissolving into the fog. Later, you reach a reflecting pool. No water. Just polished obsidian. You look down. You see yourself. Yes, but behind you. Faint silhouettes. The ninth. Not fully formed. Not vivid. just present enough to remind you. History didn't lose them. It set them aside, like a scroll with too many footnotes. Too complicated, too difficult to fit into a tidy narrative. You move on. Enter a chamber of corrected histories. Plaques read. Battle outcome. Adjusted for audience. Morale version. Approved. Official retelling. All losses denied. You feel anger flicker inside your ribs. But only briefly. Because even this, even denial, means they mattered. You whisper. You were inconvenient. And smile. That means you were real. In a small alcove, you find graffiti scratched into a wall. It reads, Nona lives. No dates. No names. Just 2 words, scrawled in messy Latin. A simple refusal to forget. You place your hand over it. And whisper back, still marching. Outside, a final path spirals away from the zone. Lined with locked boxes. Each labeled with a name or an event along, closed. You find one with no label. Just a faint eagle etched into the metal. You don't try to open it. You just sit beside it. For a long while. Eventually, the wind changes. The air lightens. The silence begins to unravel. You rise. And walk onward. Carrying no new answers. Just deeper knowing. Not everything is remembered. Not everything wants to be. But some things? Some things refuse to be buried. Even when the paperwork says otherwise. You pass a final gate. Above it, carved in crumbling stone, what we forget, walks anyway. You nod. And keep walking. Not away from forgetting, but through it, because even forgotten roads leave footprints. And someone has to follow them. You wake beneath a tree that doesn't grow in any textbook. Its leaves shimmer bronze in the morning light. And its bark carries etchings in languages no scholar has ever parsed correctly. You don't recognize the dialect, but the feeling? That's familiar. It says, almost there. Not a warning, not a promise. Just a gentle truth. The road you follow today winds downward. Not sharply, not dramatically. Just a steady slope, as though history itself is gently laying you to rest in a softer, quieter chapter. The air smells of parchment and campfire. And of endings. But not the kind that closes a story. The kind that sets it free. You pass a field of abandoned standards. Their poles lean, their flags faded. Some bear Roman eagles. Others, strange symbols, spirals, wolves, a sun with too many eyes. You walk between them like a museum no one dusts anymore. Each flag flutters as you pass. Not out of duty, out of recognition. You are part of all of them now. At the center of the field, a single stone. No name, no date, just an inscription. We went where the map ended. You sit beside it, say nothing, because some truths deserve silence more than commentary. Farther along, a hill rises before you. It's gentle, covered in knee-high grass and white wildflowers. At the top, you see them, the ninth, or what remains of them. Not ghosts, not memories, just presence. They stand quietly. Not in formation, in community. Some sit, some sharpen tools, others just watch the sky. They don't turn as you arrive, but they shift, just enough to make room. You sit among them. Someone hands you bread. Another points to a beetle crawling across your sandal. You laugh. They smile. You're here. You were always headed here. No one speaks for a long time. Eventually, someone passes you a scrap of parchment. You unfold it. One line. Are we remembered yet? You think for a moment. Then tear a strip from your own cloak. Write carefully. Better. We're felt. You tie it to a nearby branch. The wind tugs it once. Then lets it rest. Evening settles. The night begins to move again. Not marching. Just shifting. Stretching. Becoming smoke. Birdsong. Flickering shadows between tree trunks. They don't vanish. They disperse. Like dandelion seeds on a spring wind. You feel them in your bones. And in your footsteps. You rise. You walk. And this time, the path doesn't reappear. You walk across open land. Through memory, myth, mistake, and meaning. And still, onward. Because the ninth didn't need to reach an endpoint. They became the path. And now, you walk it. Later, you find a quiet clearing. A fire pit waits. Already warm. You sit. Not because you're tired. Because you're ready. You pull out the wooden sword from long ago. Place it beside you. It hums faintly. Like a story winding down. But not ending. Just drifting. A child approaches. Same one as before? Or a new one? Doesn't matter. They sit beside you. Look at the fire. Say nothing. Then whisper. Tell it again. You nod. And begin. Well, there was a legion? They listen. Not for facts. For feeling. For rhythm. For the spaces between the words. Where the real story lives. When the child sleeps, you tuck the sword into their pack. They'll need it someday. And maybe they'll tell the story better. Maybe softer. Maybe with jokes you forgot to include. You smile. Because that's the point. The night didn't need to be solved. They needed to be shared. You lay back. Stars blink slowly into view. No longer constellations. Now, just tiny campfires in the sky. You close your eyes. You are no longer a historian. Not a soldier. Not a theorist. You are a thread. Woven gently into something older. Stranger. Kinder. A legacy. A lullaby. A legion. Still marching. Still remembered. Still here. You wake to a hush so complete. It feels sacred. Not silent. Just whole. The world is holding its breath. And you are nestled inside that breath like a final stanza waiting to be spoken. You rise slowly. Your limbs remember every mile. Every theory. Every whisper of possibility. But your heart? It remembers something else. Something quieter. Something true. Today is the last road. You know it by the way the dust curls behind your heels, gentler than ever before. As though even the ground is saying thank you. You walk through a landscape that isn't any one place. A hybrid of all you've passed. Roman roads cracked and weathered. Highland cliffs softened by fog. Sand that smells of dates and cumin. Rivers full of stardust, flowing backwards. You walk them all, because they're all part of it now. The night didn't die in any one place. They lived in all of them. You hum a tune, half cadence, half lullaby. The path hums back. You pass a circle of scholars debating in whispers. Their parchment flutters with corrections and redactions. One turns and asks, "But what do you think happened?" You don't stop. You simply say, "They didn't vanish. They changed form." And keep walking. A tower appears in the distance. Not tall, just persistent. At its base, a door made of bronze, etched with every name history forgot. You place your palm on the handle. It swings open, noiselessly. Inside, a spiral staircase made of footsteps. Each stair bears an imprint of a sandal, a boot, a bare heel. You climb, not fast, just sure. At the top, a quiet room with a window. No artifacts, no plaques, just a view. A wide stretch of land where history has settled. No longer trying to explain itself. Just existing. You sit, breathe, and for the first time, you feel the night beside you. Not behind, beside. You were never following them. You were walking with them. All along. You take out the final item. The leaf from Hadrian's wall. Now dry. Now crumbling. You place it on the windowsill. It crumbles fully, turns into dust, and drifts into the wind. You don't feel loss. You feel completion. Below, you see travelers setting out. Young, eager, mispronouncing, legio. You smile. They'll get there. Or somewhere close enough. And that's the point. You stand. A scroll waits on the desk behind you. It's labeled, "The Curious Case of the Lost Roman Ninth Legion." Blank. You smile. Pick up the pen. You don't fill it with facts. You don't need to. Instead, you write just 3 words. Still walking forward. You set the pen down. Turn. And descend the tower. Outside, twilight has arrived. Not dramatic. Just gentle. You walk a few steps. And then stop. Because here, at last, the road ends. Or rather, it begins again. Somewhere new. In someone else's steps. Someone else's sleep. So you lie down. In soft grass that smells like honey and pages. You rest your head. Close your eyes. And finally, you're safe now. The fire has gone low. The footsteps are behind you. Tucked into the folds of memory where they belong. There's nothing more to solve. No more speculation. No more unmarked graves to dig through. No more scrolls to unfurl under torchlight. Just breath. Yours. Slow. Even. You carried the ninth as far as they needed to go. And in doing so, you carried yourself, through questions. Through quiet. Through every foggy morning that never quite answered what happened. Because maybe it didn't need to. Maybe the story was never in the finding. Maybe it was always in the walking. That steady rhythm. That gentle curiosity. That soft resistance to forgetting. The world is full of stories like this. tucked behind ruins, folded into languages we only half remember, sung in lullabies without names. But this one? This one is yours now. You traced it, you honored it, you whispered it forward, and now, it can rest. And so can you. Let the stars turn quietly above you. Let the ground hold your weight like the end of a sentence. Let your breath rise and fall like a banner in the wind. The ninth walks no longer. Because tonight, you've walked far enough for all of them. Good night, sweet dreams. End of script. Sweet dreams.